Chapter 341. Junior Yinjiu, why have you come to our enemy peak? Jin Yanwei asked politely. He was now in charge of enemy peak, so he was well informed. He naturally knew that Elder Emohua had taken a fancy to this young man. I heard that senior sister Yue was poisoned and unconscious, so I wanted to recommend myself. Yin Jioga went straight to the point. You know how to cure poisons? Jin Yanwei raised his eyebrows in surprise. I know a thing or two. If you trust me, why don't you let me try? Yin Jioga said calmly. Alright, I'll let you try. Jin Yanwei was straightforward. He had invited many spirit doctors and alchemists to check on Si Yue. But all of them said that the poison was very strange, and none of them could cure it. Seeing that his master was about to return, he was worried. Since someone voluntarily came to help, then let's give it a try. Anyway, it's like trying everything in a desperate situation. After Si Yue was sent back, she was placed in a remote courtyard at the back of enemy peak. Only 2 maids were assigned to take care of her. The 2 maids were in their late 20s and looked thin and weak. When they saw Jin Yanwei, they silently knelt in the corner. Junior Yinjiu, see for yourself. Jin Yanwei waved at the 2 maids, then sat down on a chair. Si Yue wore a brand new green dress, her hands crossed over her abdomen. Her expression was serene, and her skin was rosy and glowing. She was even more beautiful than before. Yin Jioga reached out to take her pulse, and suddenly felt that something was wrong. Si Yue had been unconscious for so long, and her dantian should be very empty. How could it be so full? This was clearly a symptom that would only appear after she had fused with her body. What kind of beast was it, to not even let go of an unconscious woman? How was this different from a female corpse? Could it be Jin Yanwei's doing? Junior Yinjiu, do you see anything? Jin Yanwei noticed that Yin Jioga was looking at him strangely, and could not help but ask. Oh, I'm just amazed that senior brother Jin has taken good care of her. Senior sister Yue is still so energetic after being unconscious for so long. Yin Jioga probed, wanting to see Jin Yanwei's expression. Junior Yinjiu, you flatter me. Do you have a way to cure her poison? Jin Yanwei's expression did not change. He was in charge of enemy peak, and was so busy every day that he did not even have the time to arrange for someone to be the leader of a small mystical realm. How could he have the time to care about Si Yue? In any case, as long as he could keep her alive and wait for his master to return, it would be fine. He really didn't care whether she was alright or not. The poison in senior sister Yue's body is more complicated. It can't be removed in a short period of time. I'll perform acupuncture on her later to see how the situation goes, Yin Jioga said readily. Alright, then I'll arrange a house for you here. You can stay and take care of her. Jin Yanwei was also straightforward. Thank you, senior brother Jin. Yin Jioga had not expected Jin Yanwei to be so easy to talk to. Don't worry, stay here. If you have any requests, let the 2 maids tell me. I still have things to do, so I'll take my leave. Jin Yanwei gave Yin Jioga a few words, then turned and left. He did not even look at Si Yue. Take care, senior brother. Yin Jioga closed the door after sending Jin Yanwei off. In the blink of an eye, only she and Zishang were left in the room. Yin Jioga turned to ask Zishang. Do you think this is Jin Yanwei's doing? Zishang was standing next to Si Yue's bed. His coquettish face had a hint of displeasure, as if he wanted to kill Si Yue with a finger. Hearing Yin Jioga's words, Zishang did not turn his head and said, It's not him, he's still a virgin. Pfft! Yin Jioga almost choked. Virgin boys in evil sect were probably as rare as virgins in brothels, let alone someone of Jin Yanwei's status. To be able to manage enemy peak after Elder Cho-sun left, it meant that he was deeply trusted by Elder Cho's senator. It was very easy for him to use his power to get some benefits. Yin Jioga did not expect him to still be a virgin. Could it be that his cultivation method was special? What's there to be surprised about? This is Yin Corp's sect, not Joyous Union sect. Your lackeys are still virgins. Zishang rolled his eyes at Yin Jioga, then continued to stare at Si Yue. Which of my lackeys are still virgins? Yin Jioga moved to Zishang's side and asked in a gossipy manner. What do you think? Zishang narrowed his eyes at Yin Jioga. A dangerous expression flashed across his face. Yin Jioga did not notice the danger and guessed with interest, Ice Heart Lotus must be it. Little Fatty might be it. But Wolf Fong doesn't look like it. Zishang did not speak, and just looked at Yun Jioga. This damned girl was so concerned about Yin Corp's sex virgins. Could it be that she wanted to personally pluck them? Yun Jioga guessed halfway, and finally realized that Zishang's expression was not right. She immediately changed the topic. Aren't we talking about Si Yue? If it's not Jin Yanwei, who do you think it is? Although Si Yue had harmed her, and she hated Si Yue, as a woman, seeing Si Yue unconscious and being fucked by a man made her feel disgusted and uncomfortable. I don't know, but this man is not just sleeping with her, he is saving her. Zishang said gloomily. Previously, he used his demonic power to seal Si Yue's divine sense. As long as there was no one to remove it, he would continue to devour her divine sense and turn her into an idiot. But now, the demonic power he sealed Si Yue was actually loosening. At this rate, Si Yue would wake up sooner or later. Then let's just wake her up. Otherwise, if the credit was stolen by someone else, how could she use enemy peak? No rush. I want to see who is so daring to ruin my plans, Zishang said with narrowed eyes. Okay. Yun Jioga expressed her agreement, but she purely wanted to know which man was so deeply in love with Si Yue that he was willing to sacrifice himself to save her. Enemy Peaks Hall. When Elder Cho Sen's disciple Manager Chun found out that Jin Yanwei was going to take Yun Jioga in, he asked worriedly, "Will you offend Elder Mo Hua by taking Yun Jioga in? TSK, is our enemy peak afraid of that old witch? What's more, junior brother Yin Jio came to us voluntarily. We are all from the same sect, so what's wrong with me taking him in?" Jin Yanwei wasn't just doing it because Elder Mo Hua was protecting Su Junqing and making him lose face. Ever since he heard that the small mystic realm had mysteriously disappeared, he felt that this matter was not normal. Unfortunately, as a substitute disciple, he didn't care about Elder White Bones and Elder Mo Hua, so he wasn't willing to divulge a lot of information. He wanted to leave Yin Jio in Enemy Peak and wait for his master to return so that he could get some information from him. Alright, then I will send more people to set up defenses. Manager Chen didn't say anything else. Now that Jin Yanwei was the substitute peak master, as a manager, all he had to do was properly assist him. Chapter 342. After Manager Chen left, Jin Yanwei was still worried, so he took out the communication talisman his master had left him and explained the matter. His master quickly replied, telling him to keep Yin Jio at all costs. When Jin Yanwei saw that even his master supported him, he was even more at ease. He immediately went out to personally take charge of the defense. Elder Mo Hua had always been domineering. It was not impossible for him to come to Enemy Peak to snatch her away. He had to be prepared. Enemy Peak was on full alert. Yin Jioga was not idle either. She was busy examining Si Yue. Originally, she had only planned on undoing Zishang's demonic power seal, but she had not expected to find another problem. Did you cause this injury? Yin Jioga suddenly found a bruise in Si Yue's memory center. This kind of injury often came with memory loss. What injury? Zishang went over to take a look and said, "This is an old injury from over 10 years ago. It has nothing to do with this sovereign." Over 10 years ago, Yin Jioga had heard Little Fatty say that Si Yue had joined the Yin Corp's sect 12 years ago. Had she lost her memory then? Why do you care so much? Just wake her up. In his opinion, he should have turned Si Yue into an idiot with a finger. She is an important tool for us now. What's the use of turning into an idiot? Yin Jioga was very open-minded. Since he had already saved her, he naturally had to be a good person to the end. As for the grudges at Blood Cloud Peak, he would settle them in the future. Up to you. Zishang was not too concerned about this. He was more concerned about the flower thief who had ruined his plans. Yin Jioga did not say anything more to Zishang. After she understood the condition of the bruise in Si Yue's brain, she took out the Thunderfire needle and started acupuncture. Dense needle shadows with a bit of thunderfire and green light landed on Si Yue's head and face. The domineering light of the thunderfire crushed over, while the light of the wood spirit followed behind to clean up the aftermath. The bruise that would have taken 7 days to clear started disappearing at a visible rate. Siyue showed a trace of pain in her coma. Yin Jyoga immediately stopped. After careful observation, she did not find anything wrong. Ever since she had obtained the wood spirit from the human-faced Peach King, the Thunderfire Needle's life force had become even denser, and its healing effects had become even better. It was impossible for it to hurt Siyue. However, Siyue's expression became more and more pained, and tears began to flow from the corners of her eyes. Although Yin Jyoga did not understand, his hands did not stop moving. Soon the blood clot disappeared and the seal was lifted. All that was left was to wait for Siyue to wake up. "Have you finished setting up the traps?" Yin Jyoga asked as he put away the needles. If he could capture the person who had secretly saved Siyue, he might be able to gain something. Yin Jyoga was very interested in anything that could help her deal with the 3 great elders. "I guarantee that he won't be able to return." Zishang was determined to win. Night gradually fell. The 2 maids prepared the meal and invited Yin Jyoga over to eat. The food was mediocre. She could tell that Jin Yanwei really didn't care much about this place. Other than sending her here at the beginning, he didn't come to visit her again, nor did he send anyone to ask for a message. However, Yin Jyoga had already learned from Zishang that Enemy Peak was currently facing a great enemy, so she was tactful enough not to cause any trouble for Jin Yanwei. She ate dinner and went to sleep early. It was dark outside, and after midnight, it was even quieter. In a remote bamboo forest behind the mountain, a black shadow quickly ran towards Siyue's small courtyard. The black shadow was tall and thin, dressed in a nocturnal robe. His face was covered by a black hood, and not even his eyes could be seen. He vigilantly observed his surroundings before tiptoeing into the small courtyard. The black shadow first went to the 2 maids' room and blew a cloud of sleeping smoke into it. When he heard that the breathing inside had deepened, he went to Yin Jyoga's room and blew a cloud of sleeping smoke as well. Yin Jyoga lay on the bed and calmly watched the colorless and odorless smoke slowly spread. She first swallowed an antidote pill, then pretended to be asleep. The black shadow vigilantly scanned Yin Jyoga with his divine sense a few times. After confirming that it had been affected, he walked towards Siyue's room. Siyue had just washed her body in the evening and changed into a pale pink dress. Lying on the bed, she looked serene and beautiful. The black shadow stood by the bed and stared at her for a moment, then reached out to touch her head and face. There was still a needle hole left by Yin Jyoga's acupuncture at noon. He carefully examined Siyue and found that there was nothing wrong with her. He then took out a gray disc and placed it at the head of the bed. The disc was carved out of spirit wood, and it was densely carved with runes. There were even a few spirit jades placed on it. After it was activated, it spewed out a thick cloud of smoke that enveloped the entire room. The room immediately became incomparably dark, and there was a faint flow of gray yin qi. It turned out to be an offensive and defensive formation. After the black shadow got on the bed, he skillfully untied Siyue's clothes. However, just as he undid her belt, the gray yin qi of the formation fluctuated violently. The black shadow immediately jumped up and quickly jumped towards the window at the back. There was a bamboo forest there, and he had set up a psychedelic defensive formation so that he could escape once he entered it. However, as soon as he jumped out of the window, he felt a sharp pain in his feet, followed by a strong numbness that spread throughout his body. At the same time, a thick green vine emerged from the ground and tied him up like a dumpling. He was shocked and tried to use all the spiritual power in his body to break free, but a stone flew out of nowhere and hit his Dazui acupoint. His waist went numb, and his spiritual power dissipated. He sat on the ground paralyzed. In the next second, a demonic youth with red eyes and purple lips walked out of Siyue's room, still holding the disc that he had set up. It was Yin Jyoga, who was pretending to be asleep. "Let me see who you really are." Yin Jyoga sneered. He stepped forward and pulled off the black shadow's mask. "Why are you here?" Yin Jyoga was shocked when she saw the black shadow's true appearance. She would never have guessed that the man who came to molest Siyue in the middle of the night was little Fatty's uncle, Jin Chuan. Jin Chuan frowned and stared at Yin Jyoga with a fierce look. Senior Jin Chuan, I remember that you are the sect master's steward. Why are you looking for senior sister Yue at enemy peak so late at night? Yin Jioga was not afraid of him at all. The last time Jin Chuan came looking for her, he had been acting all high and mighty. She was very unhappy, and today was the perfect time for revenge. This has nothing to do with you. I advise you to mind your own business and worry more about yourself. Jin Chuan's voice was gloomy and threatening. He looked like he was telling her to mind her own business if she could not protect herself. Chapter 343. I don't know if Senior Jin Chuan has heard of the proverb, when there are too many lice, one will not be afraid of an itch. Yin Jioga smiled slightly. Sister is not even afraid of Elder Emohua and Elder Baigu. Why would she be afraid of a small steward like you? Jin Chuan saw through Yin Jioga's rascality. After a moment of silence, he said with a straight face, I'm here to save Siyue. If your medical skills are really that good, you should have already seen that the divine sense seal on her has loosened a lot. That's right. I did see that the seal on senior sister Yue has loosened a lot. Apart from that, I also saw that the method you used to remove the seal was not very good. It felt like you were taking advantage of her. Yin Jioga was more reserved and did not mention that Jin Chuan was with the female corpse. That's right. I did use the method of dual cultivation to treat her injuries. But even if she wakes up and finds out about this, she will definitely not blame me. Jin Chuan was very calm. Yin Jioga was actually speechless. With Siyue's style, this kind of dual cultivation to treat illnesses was really nothing to her. Alright, let me go. If Jin Yanwei finds out, we won't be able to explain ourselves, Jin Chuan said impatiently. What's there to explain? Senior Jin Chuan sacrificed himself to save someone. Such a good thing should be known by senior brother Jin. He might even be grateful to you. Yin Jioga had not found out Jin Chuan's purpose in saving Siyue. How could he let him go so easily? What do you want? Jin Chuan's face darkened. Even though he was tied up and sitting on the ground, his aura was still solemn and dignified. He did not look like a rapist at all. You just need to tell me why you sacrificed yourself to save senior sister Yue. Oh, that's right, there's also this array disc. I remember that the Yin Corpse sect is only good at Yin spirit talismans, and not array formations. Yin Jioga waved the high-grade array disc in his hand. Although she did not know how to draw talisman patterns, she had studied them after following Zishang for so long. The black fog emitted by the array disc seemed to be driven by Yin Qi, but it was actually carved with the unique talisman patterns of the Purple Cloud sect. It was exactly the same as the talisman patterns that Nangongli had given her. When Jin Chuan heard Yin Jioga's question, a fierce killing intent flashed in his eyes, but it quickly disappeared. Since you insist on asking, then I'm not afraid to tell you. I like to fool around with women like this. I can dual cultivate and feel good at the same time. Saving her was just to prevent others from finding out, so that I can use it as an excuse to shirk responsibility. As for that array board, I bought it when I went to Amethyst Mountain for work. Jin Chuan suddenly grinned. His originally serious and rigid face suddenly became incomparably evil and charming. He looked like an out-and-out pervert. If it was someone else, they would probably believe it. After all, an evil sect like the Yin Corpse sect had many perverts, so it was normal for them to have this kind of special hobby. However, Yin Jioga instinctively felt that Jin Chuan was lying. Things were definitely not that simple. Just as she was about to continue asking, Zishang transmitted his voice. Something happened at enemy peak. Jin Yanwei is heading this way. Yin Jioga decisively gave up on asking. For Jin Lin's sake, I'll let you go this time. Next time, if you want to fool around, you'd better choose the right person to avoid losing yourself. Yin Jioga pinched her fingers and retracted the vines on Jin Chuan's body. Then she threw the paralysis powder antidote to him. Jin Chuan picked up the antidote and sniffed it. After confirming that it was not poisonous, he swallowed it. Once he regained his mobility, he immediately disappeared into the bamboo forest. Yin Jioga hurriedly returned to the courtyard. Not long later, she saw Jin Yanwei rushing over with a serious expression. Behind him were Manager Chun and the elite disciples of Enemy Peak. Yin Jioga pretended to be sleepy as she walked out. She asked in surprise. Senior Jean, it's so late. Why did you come? Do you have a mystic white bone monkey with you? Jean Yanwei did not even bother with small talk and asked directly. That's right. Yin Juga nodded. From the looks of it, Elder White Bone had come looking for him. Take it out for me to see. Jean Yanwei extended his hand and said. I didn't bring it with me. Yin Juga would have to be stupid to take it out. Jean Yanwei frowned and said angrily. Do you know you've gotten into big trouble? He had originally thought that Yin Juga had only offended Elder Mo Hua. He had not expected her to have a mystic white bone monkey with her. Now that Elder White Bone and Elder Mo Hua had come together, one wanted the monkey and the other wanted him. He really could not take it anymore. The mystic white bone monkey is a spiritual being. If it wants to leave, I can't stop it. Yin Juga said innocently. Why are you still talking nonsense with me at a time like this? Do you think Elder Mo Hua will believe your nonsense? Be careful that they don't use the soul-searching technique on you, if they are forced into a corner. In the past, Su Junqing was pampered, but now, he is still in a miserable state. Do you want the same? Jean Yanwei said threateningly. Even if I use the soul-searching technique, it's useless. I don't have it. Yin Juga was not afraid. She had Zishang backing her up. It was impossible for those two old things to touch her. You. Jean Yanwei pointed at Yin Juga and said hatefully. All right, I can't protect you anymore. Go talk to Elder Mo Hua and Elder White Bone yourself. He did not believe that Yin Juga was not afraid. It's fine if I go. However, if people talk about Enemy Peak in the future, I'm afraid no one will dare to come up again. Yin Juga smiled. It would have been fine if Jean Yanwei had rejected her when she first came up. Now that he had taken her in, he had to hand her over under the pressure of Elder White Bones and Elder Black Flower. Wasn't this telling others that Enemy Peak was shorter than the other peaks? It would definitely be very embarrassing if word of this got out. You dare to threaten me? Although Jean Yanwei had a baby face, he was naturally not a kind person to be able to get to this position on Enemy Peak. At this moment, he glared and his killing intent surged. Senior brother Jean, you're worrying too much. I didn't mean that. Didn't you say that you would bring me to see Elder White Bones and Elder Black Flower? Then let's go. Yin Juga's expression confused Jean Yanwei. Could it be that he was confident that he would not be eaten alive by Elder Whitebone and Elder Mo Hua? However, with his cultivation of Qi Refinement Stage 5, what bargaining chips could he have? Jean Yanwei was a little bewildered, but he had already spoken, and could not go back on his words. For a moment, he was in a difficult position. At this moment, the door of the small courtyard behind him creaked, and a delicate and pleasant voice sounded. Senior Jean, you must not hand him over. Junior sister Yue, you're awake? Jean Yanwei looked at Si Yue, who was wearing a lotus dress and standing gracefully at the door in shock. He really did not dare to believe his eyes. It's all thanks to this junior brother's miraculous skills that I was able to wake up. Si Yue nodded at Yun Jioga, and then said to Jean Yanwei sternly, Senior brother, this junior brother is a talent. We must not let Whitebone Peak and Ink Flower Peak benefit. Chapter 344. Junior sister Yue, your wounds have just healed. Go back and rest. You don't have to worry about this. Jean Yanwei said impatiently. She had been lying on the bed for so long, and had yet to figure out the situation. Senior brother Jean, although I don't know why Elder Mo Hua and Elder Baigu are so bent on targeting junior brother Yunjiu, I know that whatever they are fighting over must be something good. Si Yue's voice was gentle and unhurried, but her words struck a chord with Jean Yanwei. I understand what you're saying, but the two elders have already said that if we don't hand over the person, they'll personally search for us. Without Master here, we won't be able to hold them down. Jean Yanwei was worried as he spoke of this. Senior brother, you really like to joke. Junior brother Yunjiu isn't at Enemy Peak. He has hands and feet, so where are we going to find him? Si Yue said with a smile. Jean Yanwei's eyes lit up, but he quickly shook his head and said, It's impossible for junior brother Yunjiu to leave Corpse Sect. There's no need to go through so much trouble. Just find a place to hide him on Enemy Peak. Si Yue said. Our Enemy Peak is only so big. The two elders will know everything with their divine sense, unless, Jin Yanwei said, and suddenly thought of a place that the two elders wouldn't find. Senior brother, are you talking about the forbidden area at the back door? Siyue immediately saw through Jin Yanwei's thoughts. That was the forbidden area that Cho-sun had set up. It was filled with traps and restrictions. Other than Jin Yanwei, no one could enter or leave. Yun Jioga had been silently eavesdropping. When he heard the forbidden area, his eyes lit up. This meant that there were many fortuitous encounters. Yes, that is the most suitable place, but I'm afraid that master will find out. Jin Yanwei was still afraid that his master would be angry. Senior brother's worries are reasonable. Siyue thought for a moment and said, how about this? We seal junior brother Yunjio and put a restriction on him. Then we put him in the outermost area of the forbidden area. As long as he doesn't get close to the center, Elder Cho-sun won't say anything. However, junior brother Yunjio will have to suffer. Siyue looked at Yunjioga apologetically. Senior sister Yu, you're too courteous. As long as I can keep my little life, it's already good enough. There's no need to feel aggrieved, Yunjioga said righteously. But Jin Yanwei was still hesitant. At this moment, the alarm on enemy peak suddenly rang loudly, and the wind and clouds surged. Elder Emohua's sharp voice sounded. Brat Jin, if you don't hand over Yunjio to me, I'll tear your enemy peak apart. Alright, let's go to the forbidden area then. Time was of the essence, so he didn't have much time to think about it. Jin Yanwei straightforwardly placed a restriction on Yunjioga, and used a long whip magical artifact to seal off one's aura to tie her up tightly. After confirming that there were no mistakes, he personally carried Yunjioga towards the back of the mountain. He could not help but mutter along the way, Junior brother Yunjio, that's my master's forbidden area. There are restrictions everywhere. Once you're inside, just stay put. I'll come get you after I send the two elders away. Senior brother, what if they don't leave? Yunjioga asked. You don't have to worry about that. My master will be back by tomorrow at the latest. When that time comes, they'll have to leave even if they don't want to. Jin Yanwei was very confident in his master's strength. Alright then. When that time comes, senior brother must put in a good word for me in front of Elder Cho-sun. Yunjioga said sincerely. Don't worry. As long as you hand over the mystic skeleton monkey, my master will reward you even without my good words. Jin Yanwei secretly said to himself. The forbidden area at the back of the mountain was not wide. After walking along a winding path, he saw a forest of pagoda trees, which was the ghoul corpse killing formation that Elder Cho-sun had meticulously set up. It was filled with ghouls, all of which were good seedlings that Elder Cho-sun had gathered from all over the place. He wanted to use the method of raising goo to kill each other, so that he could cultivate a ghoul king. Although the highest level currently was only a ghost general, it was still enough to crush Jin Yanwei to pieces. Jin Yanwei slowed down, and took out a red token the size of a palm from his storage pouch. It was neither made of metal nor wood, and there was a layer of red mist floating above it. He could vaguely see countless ferocious ghosts. This was the pass that his master had given him, so that he could feed these ghouls. Jin Yanwei raised the red token high above his head. A faint red light shone down from the token, secretly wrapping him within it. He slowly walked into the pagoda trees, and a thick corpse aura assaulted his senses. Countless ghouls stood under the trees and stared at him, revealing an instinctive desire for flesh and blood. Although it was not Jin Yanwei's first time here, he still felt his scalp go numb. He randomly found a large pagoda tree, threw the bundled-up Yunjioga over it, and ran away without looking back. Yunjioga leaned against the tree trunk, looking at the pale and ferocious ghouls around her gloomily. Although Jin Yanwei had already given her enough spirit-sealing talismans, it still could not stop the fragrance of her tender flesh. Not long after she put her down, the ghouls began to stir and stagger towards her. This Jin Yanwei must have done this on purpose, so that she could release the profound skeleton monkey to save her life. Although Yunjioga had already seen through their scheme, she had no choice but to comply. Who told him to disappear as soon as he entered the great corpse ghost formation? Little monkey, come out. Yunjioga carefully chanted the summoning incantation, and the little skeleton monkey flew out from her storage bag. After quickly assembling itself, it spat out a faint yin chi that enveloped her, concealing her human scent. Even so, the ghouls still circled around Yunjioga, as if they were watching a bunch of monkeys. In the blink of an eye, there were 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside. The thick corpse stench almost suffocated Yunjioga to death. Little monkey spit out some air. Yunjioga could also see that the little skeleton monkey was slacking off. Kacha kacha. The little skeleton monkey shook its head at Yunjioga in dissatisfaction. The soul fire in its eye sockets was extremely small. It had been locked up for a long time, so naturally it did not want to work. Little monkey, be good. After big sister is done with this, I'll make you a big bucket of yin chi water to drink, okay? Yunjioga hurriedly coaxed. Ever since entering the small hidden realm, the profound yin monkey's source of yin chi had been cut off. It was no wonder that it was angry. The skeleton monkey raised a finger, indicating that it wanted to add another bucket. 1 bucket is too much. 2 scoops at most. Yunjioga flatly refused. It was not easy to get a bucket of yin chi water for this guy, so she could not let it get used to its bad habit. The little skeleton monkey's soul fire flickered. Then, it seriously stretched out its palm, indicating that it wanted 5 scoops. Fine, 5 scoops it is. Yunjioga gave in. These ghouls were really too smelly. The little skeleton monkey's lower jaw moved in satisfaction, revealing a smile. Then it prepared to pour more yin chi into it. Suddenly, a thumping sound came from the ground in the distance. The surrounding ghouls screamed in fear, then scattered in all directions, as if they had seen a ghost. Chapter 345. Yunjioga suddenly clenched her fists, and saw a tall, burly, green-eyed ghoul dressed in bronze armor rushing towards her. The ghoul raised a cyan moon saber that was shrouded in black chi. The tip of the saber slashed down viciously at Yunjioga's location. The wind from the saber immediately cut a large crack in the ground. Then, billowing smoke mixed with the sound of an explosion assaulted Yunjioga. Little monkey, run. Yunjioga wanted the white bone monkey to escape with her. She didn't expect the idiot to stand up and leave, leaving Yunjioga on the spot. Boom! At the crucial moment, a purple mist shot out from the imprint on Yunjioga's wrist, wrapping her up tightly. The crack stopped in front of Yunjioga. The corpse ghost roared in anger when its attack missed. It raised its saber, and the black energy became stronger as it slashed towards Yunjioga again. But this time, before the saber landed, it was broken by a purplish-black spear. The spear's momentum did not decrease, as it sent the corpse ghost flying into the sky. Where did you run off to? Yunjioga asked as she kept the disloyal white bone monkey into her storage bag. Where did you run off to? Yunjioga asked as she kept the disloyal white bone monkey into her storage bag. Where did you run off to just now? Yunjioga asked as she kept the disloyal white bone monkey into her storage bag. Yunjioga's eyes lit up, but when she thought of Elder Cho's son, she hesitated. Will we be discovered if we barge in like this? With me here, I guarantee he won't find out. Even though the restrictions were not bad, it was not enough in Zishang's eyes. Alright, then let's go in and take a look. Yunjioga immediately became excited. Yunjioga and Zishang followed the mysterious Yin white bone monkey's lead, and easily passed through the corpse ghost array. After avoiding many traps, they arrived in front of a dark cave. This cave doesn't look like much. Yunjioga looked around the empty cave, and did not find anything out of the ordinary. Condense the Yin energy in your forehead and look carefully. See if there's anything on the ground and walls. Zishang placed his palm behind Yunjioga, lending her some strength. Yunjioga opened his spiritual eye, and took a closer look. Indeed, he discovered that the cave walls and the ground were filled with black Yin spirit runes. They were like a spider web that was tightly interwoven, waiting for its prey to take the bait. This is the Netherworld 4 slaughter formation. Even though it hasn't been set up completely, its might isn't weak. If one were to enter rashly, then not only would one's body be instantly destroyed by the formation, one's soul would be captured as well. It's extremely vicious. Zishang explained. How do we get in? At first, Yunjioga didn't think so. Now he realized that the cave was giving off a huge pressure. What are you afraid of when I'm here? Zishang laughed with ridicule. And then he summoned the dark Een skeleton monkey over. The mystic Een white-bone monkey was very respectful towards Zishang, and obediently walked over. Zishang unceremoniously dismantled the mystic Een white-bone, and reassembled it into the shape of an umbrella. The monkey head happened to be facing Yunjioga. Why did you do this to it? Yunjioga looked at the skeleton monkey's pitiful soul fire, his heart filled with sympathy. I've thought about it. This netherworld 4-kill formation requires an extreme Een chi to defend against it, Zishang said. Then will the little monkey be in danger? If there was danger, then forget it. Compared to looking for some unknown watermelon, it was more important to protect this sesame seed in his hand. No, it has eaten too much Een chi during this period of time. It's just right to use this formation to temper it. Zishang had a look of, I'm doing it for its own good. The skeleton monkey's soul fire jumped wildly, as if it was shouting no 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 no. Good child. Only by going through the hardships can you rise to the top. Do your best. Yunjioga patted its big head, and then stood under the umbrella with Zishang. However, this umbrella was still a little small, and couldn't completely cover the two of them. Come up. Zishang squatted down, looking like he was going to let Yunjioga carry him away. Yunjioga didn't hesitate to get on his back. The two of them held the skeleton umbrella, and stepped into the cave. The scene in front of them instantly changed drastically. The empty cave turned into boundless darkness. The cries of a baby and the laughter of a child drifted in from an unknown place, disappearing in the blink of an eye. But then a shrill female voice rang out. It was faint and resentful, as if crying and complaining. It made one's scalp go numb. Yunjioga was a veteran, so she naturally wouldn't be scared by these little tricks. Just as she was about to urge Zishang to continue forward, she realized that the skeleton umbrella in her hand suddenly sank, and she almost dropped it. That's the netherworld blocking the way. Zishang carried Yunjioga with one hand, and took the skeleton umbrella from her hand with the other. Yunjioga's heart immediately lightened. She was wondering why it felt like there was something sitting on the umbrella. Zishang carried Yunjioga forward in the darkness. Those strange sounds kept disturbing their eardrums. Towards the end, it turned into familiar human voices. Yunjioga even heard the voices of Mother Qing, Yiyu and Luo Tian. It made her want to greet them, but she held back in the end. Although Zishang was walking very steadily, Yunjioga could still feel the skeleton umbrella getting heavier and heavier. The sound of bones being squeezed was so unpleasant that it made her teeth ache. Yunjioga was afraid that the skeleton monkey wouldn't be able to hold on, but she saw that the thin white bones kept releasing wisps of Een chi. Under the guidance of Zishang's spiritual power, the Een chi kept forming a cycle, and the bones became more and more solid. In the end, the skeleton umbrella shrunk to half its original size, but the Een chi it emitted doubled. Every thin bone shone with a metallic glow. It seemed like it had successfully advanced. Before Yunjioga could be happy, a cliff suddenly appeared in front of her. The bottom of the cliff was so deep that she couldn't see it, and the mountain wind made her face hurt. Next, before Yunjioga could finish her question, Zishang had already carried her and jumped down the cliff. Yunjioga thought that she would hear the sound of the wind, but there was nothing. As soon as she jumped down, a stone room appeared in front of her eyes. So the cliff was just an illusion. Zishang put the skeleton monkey away and placed his palm on the stone room. With the invasion of the purple mist, the stone room opened wide, and waves of light came from treasures. This was a treasure room. This treasure room was very spacious. There weren't many things, but they were arranged very neatly. On the left stood a row of Een corpses that looked like monkeys. There were over 100 of them, and they were covered in Een spirit runes, looking fierce and scary. In the middle was a light screen with over 10 small balls of light. Inside were high-level totem weapons. The lowest was a 4th-grade totem weapon. They were much higher level than Yunjioga's bone spike and thundersnake whip. She couldn't help but be envious, but she didn't dare have any ideas. On the right was a row of medicine cabinets carved from flower branches and spirit wood. Bottles of pills were neatly arranged on top of the cabinets. They were all top-notch pills that were extremely useful for cultivation. There was even a bottle of foundation-building pills. Below the cabinets was a huge jade medicine cabinet with countless beautiful blood lotus flowers stacked on top of each other. This elder Cho-sun is quite rich. Yin Jyoga was very moved. A golden core ancestor was truly rich. The real good things aren't here. Zishang gave a faint smile and pointed at the bottom of the medicine cabinet. Chapter 346. You mean there's a secret room below? Yin Jyoga was excited, being able to be hidden so tightly by Cho-sun. The treasures in this secret room must not be ordinary. Stand back first. Zishang had Yin Jyoga back to the door. Then he began to draw some runes on the bottom of the medicine cabinet. It was the floating talisman. When the last rune was finished, the small array flashed with a faint blue light. Then the incomparably heavy medicine cabinet slowly rose up, revealing the black-red floor below. This black-red floor was covered in blood-red Yin spirit runes. It was like blood-red eyes staring at the intruder, releasing a cold and gloomy aura. Zishang had done a lot of research on nether spirit formations. Once he found the entry point, he poured an extremely pure purple qi into it. The blood-red eyes seemed like they were hypnotized as they slowly closed their eyes. Following that, the floor split open on both sides, and a blood-red coffin emerged from the ground. The Yin spirit runes carved on the coffin looked like blood-red chains, and it emitted a nauseating stench. Yin Jyoga quickly swallowed 2 poison-repelling pills, feeling a bit better. He asked Zishang, "This coffin doesn't seem right." The Yin spirit runes on it are soul-nourishing talismans. It uses the spiritual energy of the blood to nourish the soul. Zishang said this while walking around the coffin a few times, carefully studying the method to open it. "Do you think the thing inside is Cho-sun's Yin corpse?" Yin Jyoga asked with great interest. It said that no one in the Yin corpse sect had ever seen Cho-sun's Yin corpse. "We'll know once we open it." Zishang quickly found a way to open it. After pouring in his unique purple demonic energy, the lid of the coffin opened to the side. A very nice fragrance came from the coffin. It was the smell of the blood lotus. Yin Jyoga couldn't help looking into the coffin. He was instantly shocked. What was lying inside was not a Yin corpse, but rather a beautiful girl wearing sky blue robes. Her skin was white. Her eyebrows were like a painting. Her nose was straight and delicate. Her red lips were slightly curled up, as if she was smiling, making people feel happy. Her chin was small and exquisite. It was very perfect. But the most important thing was that this young girl was actually at the late golden core stage. With Cho-sun's temper, he should have immediately refined this kind of good material into a Yin corpse. Why would he put it here? Yin Jyoga couldn't help but take a closer look at the girl. He found that Siuyu's chin was somewhat similar to this girl's. Could this be the reason why Cho-sun doted on Siyue? Then what was the relationship between this girl and Cho-sun? They couldn't be lovers, right? This woman's soul has been taken away. Zishang raised his eyebrows. Cultivators in the later stage of the gold core realm all had the ability to self-destruct their gold core. When they encountered a situation where they could not be saved, they would use this big move. Therefore, it was very difficult to take away their souls, unless it was an old monster in the nascent soul realm. Could he have been taken away by Cho-sun? Yin Jyoga instantly imagined a scene of a scumbag with a knife. Judging from Elder Mo Hua's ruthlessness, there was a high possibility of that happening. Zishang shook his head. "I don't think so. Look at the water in the coffin. It's formed by the blood lotus. There's no need for him to capture a person's soul and spend so much effort to preserve the corpse." Zishang shook his head. Only then did Yin Jyoga realize that the amber liquid in the coffin was formed by the blood lotus. The bloodthirsty sect helped Cho-sun grow flowers in the Thunder Nation. Every year, they had to kill countless people for 10 flowers to mature. He didn't expect Cho-sun to use them as formalin. However, what shocked Yin Jyoga the most was the small silk-like object in the girl's hand. If she wasn't wrong, it was a treasure map. Yin Jyoga couldn't help but reach out to take it. However, Zishang stopped him. "Don't move. Be careful of her corpse transformation." "Corpse transformation? Didn't you say she wasn't a Yin corpse?" Yin Jyoga stopped and asked. "Look carefully at what's in the water." Zishang opened Yin Jyoga's spirit eye. Yin Jyoga looked carefully, and realized that there were many transparent bugs in the water. They were densely packed and in the shape of chains. They were extremely similar to the Een spirit runes on the outside of the coffin. Those are all high-level corpse bugs. If you encounter this woman, those corpse bugs will immediately cover her body and use her gold core late-stage cultivation to fight you to the end, Zishang said. Then forget it. Yin Jioge was only here for sightseeing. He didn't want to cause such a big trouble. Although I can't take it away, I can still take a look. Zishang's fingers moved slightly. The silk seemed to have a life of its own as it flew up and appeared in front of Yin Jioge. This treasure map was extremely big. It was the size of 3 palms. Yin Jioge took out the treasure map that he found on the Crown Prince and the Yi sisters. It really did match. Moreover, more than half of it was restored. Only a quarter of it was missing. I want it. Yin Jioge was excited. As long as he could get this treasure map, he wasn't afraid of any commotion. Now is not the time. Zishang shook his head. His fingers moved again, and the treasure map returned to the girl's hand. All right. Although Yin Jioge felt a little regretful, he wasn't very disappointed. Since he already knew that the item was here, he could come back to take it when he had the chance. Let's go. After Zishang restored everything to its original state, he brought Yin Jioge out of the treasure room and returned to the ghoul corpse array. Elder Mo Hua's incomparably furious voice echoed in the sky. Yin Jioge, you brat, how dare you trick me? How dare you? Don't think that you'll be safe just because you're hiding in enemy peak. Do you believe that I won't skin you alive after I get my hands on you? Her tone sounded like Yin Jioge was cheating her of her money and sex. Yin Jioge felt that she was being wronged. She had never agreed to be Elder Mo Hua's male pet. How was this cheating? Yin Jioge, don't be afraid. Come out in peace. I'll protect you. Elder Whitebone's friendly voice sounded behind Elder Mo Hua. You just have to give me the abstruse white skeleton monkey. Anyway, that treasure won't be of much use in your hands. Why don't you exchange it with me for a suitable cultivation method, or magic item? Or if you want a foundation establishment pill, that's fine too. I have 3 with me. I'll give them all to you. Whitebone's old man, are you trying to snatch people from me? Elder Mo Hua flew into a rage out of humiliation. Mo Hua, don't be angry. I'll help you find a group of better disciples later, and send them to your Mo Hua palace as an apology. Elder Whitebones looked like he was in the mood to negotiate. Humph, do you think I care? Old Elder Mo was very dissatisfied. We're all old friends. All the disciples of the Een Corpse sect are listening. Give me some face. Elder Whitebones played the emotional card. The 2 of them echoed each other. One white face and the other black face, they spoke in full swing. It was as if the 2 of them had really reconciled, and were going to arrange a good place for Yin Jioge. Chapter 347. If it was any other disciple, they would have been tempted to surrender. After all, these promises were made in front of the entire Een Corpse sect. No matter how thick Elder Mo Hua and Elder Baigu's skin was, they couldn't go back on their words. But the truth was that these words were said by the 2 of them to this small forbidden area, using their divine sense. Other than Yin Jioge and Zishang, no one else heard these promises. But as long as Yin Jioge agreed, Elder Mo Hua and Elder Baigu could immediately lock onto her divine sense and forcefully form a contract. Yin Jioge naturally wouldn't fall for this. She ignored the 2 elders' chatter and took out the evolved profound Een Whitebone monkey to examine it carefully. At this time, the profound Een Whitebone monkey had already been tempered to the size of a palm. Its small bones were no longer pale white, but instead glowed faintly. It was like jade, but not jade, crystal clear. The soul fire in its eye sockets had condensed into a soul stone. It looked like 2 red gems were embedded in it. The entire white bone was as beautiful as a work of art. In the future, you don't need to open it and put it in a bag. Zishang rubbed the white bone monkey's head. It felt good. The white bone monkey heard that it didn't need to be locked in the small black room anymore. Before it could be happy, Zishang added, just tie it up and hang it around your waist. Good idea. Yin Jioge immediately took out a red rope and wrapped it around the white bone monkey's neck twice before hanging it around his waist. The light white bone monkey didn't have any weight, and hanging it around his waist didn't affect him at all. Gotcha! The white bone monkey wanted to protest angrily, but it failed under Zishang's gaze. It could only hang its head in despair, looking like a hanged ghost. Just as Yin Jioga and Zishang were excitedly torturing the pitiful white bone monkey, the great hall of Enemy Peak was already burning with the flames of war. Little brat Jean, I think you want to do this the hard way. Elder Mo Hua and Elder Baigu spoke for a long time, but couldn't get a response from Yin Jioga. They couldn't help but flare up at Jin Yanwei. Elders, junior brother Yin Jio really isn't at Enemy Peak. Don't make things difficult for me. Jin Yanwei had a bitter expression and acted very well. Stinking brat, you still dare to put on an act in front of me? Do you believe that I will use the soul-searching technique on you? Elder Mo Hua's beautiful eyes were filled with murderous intent. She raised her hand and condensed a large hand made of yin energy to grab Jin Yanwei's head. Jin Yanwei subconsciously took out his dark flame bone spur and dispersed Elder Mo Hua's yin chi hand. Not good. Jin Yanwei immediately realized that he had made a mistake. As expected, Elder Mo Hua immediately narrowed his eyes and said eerily, "Good boy, you actually dare to go against your superiors and attack an elder. Today, I will help your master teach you a good lesson." With that, a black peony flower flew out from her storage pouch and flew towards Jin Yanwei. Although Jin Yanwei was at the mid-stage of foundation establishment, he was still nothing in front of Elder Mo Hua. The black dark flame bone spike was devoured by the Mo Hua, and he was rooted to the spot. He could only watch as the Mo Hua opened its mouth and attacked him. Right at this moment, an extremely cold gust of wind blew outside the hall. In the next moment, Jin Yanwei was pulled away by a small figure. Replacing him were 3 tall and mighty monster monkey-ing corpses with fierce expressions. "Master!" Jin Yanwei excitedly looked at the small figure in front of him and almost cried. "Mo Hua, White Bones, you took advantage of my absence to bully my disciple. Do you think I'm dead?" Although Cho Sun still looked like a 5-year-old child, his small body released a terrifying aura. 24 bat-shaped bone spurs floated behind him, and the 6 monster monkey-ing corpses surrounded Elder White Bones and Elder Mo Hua, looking like they wanted to catch them all in one fell swoop. "Aya, I was just joking with your disciple. There's no need to be so serious." Elder Mo Hua immediately put away her Mo Hua flower and said with a charming smile, "Speaking of which, it's your disciple's fault. She actually protected my defected male pet. She really doesn't put me in her eyes. Stop saying useless words. Since you dare to be so presumptuous in my territory, you'll have to pay the price in blood." Cho Sun had a fierce expression, and the monster monkey-ing corpses let out roars, revealing their mouths full of sharp white teeth. "I already said it was a joke. If you don't believe me, you can ask White Bones. Actually, we came here to discuss the matter of the small secret realm with you." Elder Mo Hua looked at Elder White Bones. Before coming here, they had already agreed to form an alliance. "If you dare retreat, this old lady won't forgive you." Elder White Bones had been observing Cho Sun silently. When he heard Elder Mo Hua's call for help, he grinned and said to Cho Sun, "I heard that you went to the ruins. You must have gained a lot, right? You can exchange these demon corpses." "It has nothing to do with you," Cho Sun coldly replied. Elder Mo Hua found some clues. Looking carefully, she found that these monster monkey-ing corpses were all injured, and the 24 bat bone spurs were very dim. It was clear that they had gone through a large battle. The bone spurs and ing corpses were already this rotten, so the person must not be any better. Elder Mo Hua was instantly relieved. She charmingly smiled at Cho Sun and said, "Since you're injured, don't try to show off. Even if I'm injured, I can still kill you too." Cho Sun was not afraid at all. Rather, his killing intent increased by a level. This was the prelude to the counterattack of an injured beast. Cho Sun, we're all from the same sect. Wouldn't it be a joke to fight over a little disciple? Elder White Bones was very afraid of Cho Sun, so she immediately changed her tone. That's right, he's just a boy toy. If your disciple likes him, then he can have him. There's no need to harm our relationship." Elder Mo Hua followed up. Fuck. Jin Yanwei really wanted to curse. Not to mention that he couldn't mess around with his cultivation technique. Even if he wanted to mess around, he would find a fragrant woman who would like Yinjiu's corpse poison face. Cho-sun did not say anything, but his aura eased up a bit. At least he didn't look like he was going to fight to the death. The White Bone Elder saw that there was hope, so he said, "You know how important the profound White Bone Monkey is to me. We have been in the same sect for so long, so just do me a favor. We can use something to exchange for it." Using something to exchange for it was already a sign of submission. Cho-sun's face was expressionless. After a while he asked, "What do you want to use to exchange?" "I'll use a branch of the black bone leopard pattern wood to exchange for that brat Yunjiu," Elder Mo Yin said first. Although this chip wasn't very expensive, it was enough to exchange for a disciple at the third chi refining stage. "I'll use a high-grade third-grade dark spirit bone to exchange for the profound White Bone Monkey," Elder White Bones said. Although this spirit bone wasn't very high-grade, it was still very hard to obtain. Although Cho-sun couldn't use it, it was very good to polish it and give it to a disciple. For example, when Jin Yanwei heard about the dark spirit bone, his eyes couldn't help but light up. If Cho-sun refused, it would definitely leave a knot in Jin Yanwei's heart. Even if he didn't dare to complain to his master, he would still vent his anger on Yunjiu. "Fine, you guys go catch him yourselves." Cho-sun finally gave in. This time, he came across an ancient ruin. Although he got a lot of good things, he was seriously injured in the fight and needed to recuperate. He wasn't in the mood to participate in these trivial matters, so he could only let these two guys benefit. Chapter 348. We would like to capture them ourselves, but I'm afraid it's inconvenient, Elder White Bones said meaningfully. Cho-sun frowned and looked at Jin Yanwei asking, "Where did you lock them up?" Jin Yanwei's forehead immediately broke out in sweat as he stammered. Locked them up in the back mountain." "Idiot." Cho-sun could not be bothered to beat his stupid disciple to death, as he hurriedly flew towards the forbidden area. Elder Black Flower and Elder White Bones looked at each other and followed to watch the show. At this moment, Yunjiu was still squatting in the ghoul corpse array. Before she could rejoice over the White Bone Monkey's advancement, she found out from Zishang that Cho-sun had sold her to Elder White Bones and Elder Black Flower. "Cho-sun is not my master, nor is he my parents. Why would he sell me?" Yunjiu was furious. She had wanted to use this opportunity to start a war between the three elders, but she did not expect Cho-sun to be so useless. "I can't stay here any longer." Zishang had originally wanted to let Cho-sun fight with Black Flower and White Bones first, then he would reap benefits as Yunjiu's corpse. He did not expect Cho-sun to return injured. Now that his plan had failed, he had to put in more effort to escape. "If we leave now, what about the corpse bone controlling technique?" Yunjiu was unwilling. "Aren't you not interested?" Zishang glanced at her. Not wanting to cultivate and not being able to cultivate are two different things. Yunjiu was unwilling. "I'll think of a way later. There were too many troubles staying here. It was better to leave and think of a way later." Zishang was still very open-minded. "All right." Yunjiu could only accept her fate. "Stay alert. Once Cho-sun comes in, we'll leave." Zishang had already done something to the ghoul corpse array. It should be able to buy them some time. Yunjiu also knew that today was a tough battle, so she immediately became alert and looked at the surging chi above her head. Behind them were 5 rows of ghouls, all of them staring at the sky with hatred on their faces. The one leading them was the bronze ghost general that Zishang had sent flying. Its face was filled with deep hatred. The large blade in its hand was pointed at the sky. Cho-sun's speed was extremely fast. Once he saw the locust tree forest, he rushed in without hesitation. This was his territory, and the one being locked up was a little brat at the 5th stage of chi condensation. Even if Yunjiu had the mysterious white bone, he didn't take it to heart. Cho-sun had just rushed into the locust tree forest when he was greeted by a black light. The ghouls he had raised all charged at him, as if they had seen an enemy. Well, in a sense, Cho-sun was indeed their enemy. Cho-sun formed a hand seal, wanting to control the ghoul corpse array to suppress these ghouls who dared to rebel. Unexpectedly, the ghoul corpse formation did not operate according to his will. Instead, a large amount of black and red corpse chi gushed out from the corner, causing the ghouls to become even more violent. Corpse King Chi. Cho-sun was overjoyed when he saw the black and red corpse chi. This kind of situation could only appear when there was a corpse king. Could it be that there was a corpse king here when he was not here? However, on second thought, he felt that something was wrong. The most powerful ghoul in this ghoul corpse formation was only at the level of a ghost general. Even if the other ghouls ate immortal pills, they would not be able to evolve so quickly. Many thoughts flashed through Cho-sun's mind, but his hands did not slow down. He pointed at the place where the corpse chi had erupted, and the bat bone spikes swarmed over. But he never thought that they would be trapped by the black and red corpse chi. Cho-sun's brows furrowed, and he brought the demon monkey In corpse to personally investigate the situation. Let's go. Zishang saw that Cho-sun had fallen for his trap, so he immediately carried Yun Jioga and flew out of enemy peak. Elder Mo Hua and Elder White Bones were floating in the air watching the show. Suddenly, they saw a figure charging out of the locust tree forest as fast as lightning, and they subconsciously blocked it. Elder Mo Hua's ink flower released countless petals, like a goddess scattering flowers. It was extremely spectacular. In reality, it was a group of the most savage bloodthirsty flying insects, covering the sky as they attacked Yun Jioga and Zishang. Elder White Bones took off the string of small skulls from his neck and threw them out, turning them into 5 large skulls. The soul fire in the eyes of the large skulls was dark black, and their bodies were covered in an incomparably dense black mist. They charged forward like a meteor chasing the sun. Their speed was even faster than Elder Mo Hua's goddess scattering flowers. The two of them had used their strongest killing moves from the start, and they were extremely fast. If Zishang continued to fly, he would lose the initiative and fall into a passive state. He carried Yun Jioga and decisively turned around. He raised his palm lightly, and without revealing anything, he shot out a large amount of gray yin chi at the large skulls that were flying over. The large skulls opened their mouths, and all the yin chi was sucked into their mouths. The yin corpse sex magic weapons were mainly for devouring, and Elder White Bones was no exception. These 5 skulls had a huge appetite, and nothing could escape their mouths. It was a pity that they were hit this time. The gray yin chi that they had just swallowed was mixed with countless amounts of cold energy, and it instantly froze them into 5 large ice cubes, and they began to roll around on the spot. Elder Mo Hua's goddess scattering flowers was also blocked by the yin chi that Zishang had created. Living corpse. Elder Mo Hua and Elder White Bones' eyes were extremely sharp, and in just a few moves, they had clearly seen Zishang's appearance. Gray hair and gray eyes, a stunning appearance and agile movements. Its body was filled with a thick corpse aura, and it was actually a 1,000-year-old living corpse. Elder Mo Hua and Elder White Bones' eyes instantly shone with a blazing light, and without a word, they attacked Zishang like wild beasts fighting for food. I say, when the two of you fight for something, can't you show some respect to me, your master? Yun Jioga was lying on Zishang's back, extremely dissatisfied. With her current chi refinement stage 5 cultivation, she naturally could not participate in such a high-level battle. Elder Mo Hua and Elder White Bones did not dare to kill such a rare living corpse, so Zishang could deal with them with ease. Unfortunately, he could not find a chance to kill his way out. Yun Jioga was also extremely anxious on Zishang's back. Sigh. It was still too early to expose herself. If she was given half a year to cultivate, she would definitely be able to advance to the foundation establishment stage. Although she could not participate in the battle of the Golden Core ancestors, at least she could fly on her own, and would not be a burden on Zishang's back. Little Yunjio is really capable. This living corpse is yours, right? Elder Mo Hua finally saw the clues. The person that the living corpse was protecting with all its might was not her backup male pet, Yunjio. Yunjioga did not make a sound, but Elder Mo Hua did not need her to answer, and directly came to a conclusion. As expected of the person I fancy, you really have great fortune. Hurry up and bring this living corpse to me. I will not mistreat you. Emohua, have you forgotten that I'm still here? Elder White Bones said with a faint smile. White Bones, it's enough for you to have the abstruse white skeleton monkey. Why are you fighting with me over this living corpse? Emohua's teasing was filled with determination. She really liked this living corpse. It was so beautiful and so powerful. What was a blood contract? As long as she controlled Yunjiu, it was equivalent to controlling this living corpse. Although it would be a little troublesome to use it, she did not mind. Chapter 349. This is such a good corpse, and you want to take it for yourself. Your idea is too good. If you want it, then give me 100-year-old black bone leopard pattern bamboo. The white bone elder focused on controlling bones, and his corpses were also white bones. The corpse in front of him had a blood contract with Yunjiu, and was not as important to him as the profound white bone monkey. But this did not stop him from asking for more benefits. 100-year-old black bone leopard pattern bamboo. To think you can say that. Why don't you just go steal it? The black bone leopard patterned wood was hard to grow, and she had only collected 20 of them. After planting them for so many years, she could not give it to others. Then 5 it is. The white bone elder tactfully lowered the price. This black bone leopard patterned wood could help the corpses refine their qi, so 5 was enough. Elder Emohua's face was livid, constantly changing. It was clear that he was not willing to give up the 5 black bone leopard patterned bamboo. Although the 2 of them did not forget to attack each other during the negotiation, they were still a bit lax. Yunjiu couldn't help urging Zishang to run for his life. Otherwise, when Cho Sun came out, he would not be able to win against the 3 of them. There's no hurry, Zishang replied calmly. If this wasn't urgent, then when would he be urgent? Yunjiu really wanted to kneel down to Zishang, but this fellow was still leisurely fighting with him. It really was infuriating. You better make your decision quickly, otherwise when Cho Sun comes out, you'll have to pay him more. The white bone elder kindly reminded Elder Emohua. Alright, 5 it is. Help me take him down. Elder Emohua quickly made his decision. The white bone elder was speaking the truth. Cho Sun was someone who would take advantage of others. If they couldn't take care of him in time, they would lose even more. Good. The white bone elder said this, and took out a corpse refining bag from his waist. In the next moment, a 10-meter-tall white bone corpse wearing armor and holding a golden sword appeared in front of Yunjiu. Elder Emohua also took out his corpse. It was actually a baby. His skin was purplish-black, and his face was terrifyingly dry. He was only wearing a red doo-doo, and what was embroidered on the doo-doo was not an auspicious pattern, but a picture of 100 ghosts struggling in hell. Yunjiu had cultivated in the corpse sect for a long time, so he was very familiar with all kinds of corpses. With a glance, he could tell that the infant corpse in front of him was one of the ghost corpses. First, he refined an infant with the spirit root into a mummy, and then stuffed it with 81 high-grade malicious spirits. The ghost corpses refined this way had the ability to teleport, and were best at sneak attacks. This infant corpse still couldn't walk, and as soon as it appeared, it crawled in the air. After crawling a few steps forward, he disappeared from where he was. Then, he suddenly appeared in front of Zishang, and stretched out his little hand toward Zishang while babbling. The small palm was also purplish-black in color, but there was a black hole in the center of the palm. Countless ghosts were screaming and pouncing toward them. Zishang's reaction was extremely fast. Almost at the instant the infant corpse appeared, he kicked it towards Elder Emohua before the spirits could even appear. With a bang, the black cloud of petals scattered. At this time, Elder White Bone's corpse also attacked with its golden sword. It wasn't fast, but its defense was shocking. Zishang's gray spear condensed from death chi couldn't shake it at all, so it could only move around and fight. But even like this, Zishang's performance was enough to shock Elder White Bone and Elder Emohua. Elder Emohua beat her chest and stamped her feet. This living corpse was already this strong after forming a blood contract with a 5th chi disciple layer cultivator. Wouldn't she be even stronger? Thinking of this, Elder Emohua looked at Yin Jiuge with eyes filled with killing intent, as if saying, "You destroyed this old lady's treasure." Yin Jiuge was already numb to Elder Emohua's unrequited love. She focused all her attention on the direction of enemy peak, praying that Cho-sun wouldn't appear so soon. It would be best if he could immediately go into closed-door cultivation to heal his injuries. It was a pity that her wish quickly fell through. There was a flapping sound coming from the top of enemy peak. 20 black bat bone spikes flew over, with a 5-year-old child standing on the bone spike at the front. It was Elder Cho Sr. This guy really came fast. Elder Emohua was very annoyed. "There's no other way, you better give him a share," Elder Whitebone said gloatingly. He was already feeling a little regretful when he saw how powerful this living corpse was. Now that he saw Cho-sun coming over, he really hoped that he would let Emohua bleed, so that she wouldn't be twice as powerful after obtaining this living corpse. "Cho-sun, this living corpse has already formed a blood contract with my boy pet. Don't fight for it," Elder Emohua said with a charming smile, not feeling that it was strange to be flirting with Cho-sun, who looked like a 5-year-old child. "What's in it?" Cho-sun said expressionlessly. He dragged his tired and injured body over not to watch Elder Emohua flirt, but to get a share. "What do you want?" Elder Emohua said unwillingly. 20 black bone leopard bamboo. Cho-sun demanded an exorbitant price, angering Elder Emohua so much that she almost vomited blood. She suppressed the anger in her heart and said, 5, the same as white bone." "All right." Cho-sun also knew when to stop. One hand over the money, one hand over the goods. "Let's finish this quickly." Elder Emohua turned around and glared at Yin Jiuge, wanting to skin her alive. Yin Jiuge couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. Although Zishang's performance was very strong, fighting 1 against 3 was too strange. She didn't know what kind of move he would make. "Hold on tight." Zishang secretly sent a sound transmission to Yin Jiuge before placing his finger on his forehead. The blood tattoos that he had hidden slowly appeared, appearing very conspicuous on his pale white skin. "Blood Eye." Elder Emohua and Elder Whitebone both cried out in alarm before quickly retreating. Even the heaven-shattering Cho-sun didn't dare come close. This blood eye was something that only Yin corpses with special physiques could cultivate. It had a strong and terrifying curse ability. It was one of the most troublesome skills. Zishang wasn't a Yin corpse, so naturally he didn't have the blood eye ability. But this didn't stop him from overstepping his boundaries. When he was prepared to open the fake blood eye and give the 3 of them a real curse, a bell suddenly rang from the Yin Corpse sect master's peak. That was the sound of the sect master returning. As the bell rang, an extremely pure Yin energy rushed out from the Yin energy cemetery of Yin Corpse sect, separating Yin Jiuge from Cho-sun and the others. Yin Jiuge broke out in a cold sweat when she heard the bell. This sect master had always been secretive. It was said that he didn't appear even once in 10 years. Only when the 3 elders couldn't make a decision would he send a message back to solve the problem. This time in the small mystery realm, he had also sent a message to the 3 elders to find out the reason for his disappearance. He didn't expect that he would suddenly return. "Go, go," Yin Jiuge urged. She wanted to jump off Zishang's back and slip away. The sect master had the right to activate the sect's protective formation. If they were really trapped here, they really wouldn't be able to escape. Chapter 350. No need. Zishang had already realized that the Yin energy was protecting them. At this moment, an ancient voice came from the sect master's hall and entered everyone's ears clearly. "Come down." Elder Whitebone and Elder Emohua immediately stopped and landed in the hall without delay. It seemed that they were very respectful towards this sect master. Cho-sun also followed them with a stern expression. "Let's go take a look." Zishang also landed at the entrance of the sect master's hall with Yin Jiuge. The gray hall was empty and cold with a tall and majestic stone door. A tall man in black stood in the middle of the hall and said coldly with his back facing everyone, "I actually didn't know that Yin Corpse sect had become such a place where the strong bullies the weak and openly bullies disciples." "Sect master, you've misunderstood." Elder Emohua wanted to explain, but was rudely interrupted by the sect master. My Een Corpse sect is not your harem. If you can't control yourself, then scram to Huan Huan sect. Elder Mo Hua immediately did not dare to say anything. If she could stay in Huan Huan sect, why would she come to Een Corpse sect? White Bone, don't covet the junior's things. The sect master raised his hand, and a palm-sized yellow crystal flew towards him. It was a bone crystal that was even more valuable than the profound Een White Bone monkey. Sect master, I was wrong. Elder White Bone broke out in a cold sweat and bowed his head. He did not dare to accept the bone crystal. Thus, the bone crystal flew back into the sect master's hand. It seemed that he did not intend to give it away for free. Elder Cho's son did not say a word, and the sect master ignored him. Instead, he suddenly gave an order. From today onwards, Yun Jiu is a disciple of our sect master's peak. If anyone dares to have any ideas about him, don't blame me for being impolite. After saying that, he flicked his sleeves and disappeared from the spot. From the beginning to the end, he didn't even turn around to look at the crowd. Yun Joga was stunned by this pie that fell from the sky and stood rooted to the ground. This sect master had used the back of his head to suppress 3 elders. He was too awesome and had character. Little Yunjio is really lucky. Elder Mo Hua looked at Yun Joga eerily, then looked at Zishang, who was standing next to her, with a pained expression. Zishang took a step back and hid himself behind Yun Joga. This made Elder Mo Hua even angrier. The cooked duck had flown away. She was so angry that her teeth were about to bleed. But since the sect master had given the order, no matter how brave she was, she wouldn't dare to openly force him. Elder Mo Hua, you flatter me. Yun Joga regained his senses and immediately returned the favor. I hope you can live up to my compliment. Elder Mo Hua fiercely threw down this sentence and left without looking back. Elder Whitebones swept his gaze over Yun Joga. Although he didn't say anything, his expression clearly said, "Just you wait, I'll kill you one day." As for Cho-sun, he had already turned around and left the moment the sect master left. In the blink of an eye, she was the only one left in the hall. What do we do now? Yun Joga looked at Zishang. This fellow was also a freak. Previously, when he was forced to hide, he wanted to show his face every day. Now that he could appear openly, he fell in love with being invisible. Of course, it's to cultivate in seclusion at the sect master's mountain. Don't show yourself before you advance to the foundation establishment stage. Zishang said. They had offended the 3 elders today. It was better for them to go into seclusion and lie low. Yun Joga deeply agreed with him. She remembered that Jin Chuan was the manager of the sect master's mountain. It was definitely the right choice to look for him. Just as she left the hall, she saw a tall and skinny figure appear on the mountain path. It was Jin Chuan. Senior Jin Chuan, I was just about to look for you. Yun Joga greeted him warmly. Jin Chuan looked at her coldly and said in an indifferent tone, I didn't expect you to be so capable. You actually made the sect master personally come back to take you in as a disciple. The sect master has a good eye for heroes. Yun Joga said shamelessly. Other than this reason, she couldn't think of any other reason. TSK hero. Jin Chuan didn't hide his disdain at all. Yun Joga forgave him for being short-sighted and changed the topic. Senior Jin Chuan, since the sect master has already taken me in as a disciple, where is my cave abode? The sect master didn't give me any instructions. How would I know? Jin Chuan's attitude was very bad. It didn't seem like he was familiar with Yun Joga at all. Senior Jin Chuan, if I remember correctly, I still have something on you. Yun Joga couldn't help but remind him to be nicer and not to offend her. Do you think you still have a way to go back to Enemy Mountain and complain? Jin Chuan sneered, his face full of confidence. Yun Joga was stunned. Finally, she squeezed out a sentence. I don't need to complain. I just need to tell senior sister Yu. After all, she was her savior on the surface. She should believe her, right? Up to you. If you want to complain, go ahead. Jin Chuan waved his hand indifferently and walked into the hall to do his own things. Why don't you beat him up? Yun Joga asked. This Jin Chuan was so despicable. He had to be beaten up. Keep a low profile. Zishang rolled his eyes at Yun Joga. She had just entered the sect master's mountain, and she was already causing trouble. Was she afraid that others would think too highly of her? Alright. Yin Zhuge admitted. To her, keeping a low profile was very important. Since Jin Chuan wouldn't help her arrange a cave, she would find it herself. Yin Zhuge did what she said. She immediately summoned the treasure-seeking scorpion and ordered, "Help me find a place with dense spiritual energy. I want to open a cave." Alright. The treasure-seeking scorpion immediately agreed. It jumped off the ground and began to search. Yin Zhuge took advantage of this time to walk around the sect master's mountain. The sect master's mountain was very large, but there were very few people. There were also very few disciples. It was said that no disciple had joined the sect master's mountain in a long time. This was because once a new disciple came, no one would care about them. The sect master was not here for many years. Everything was left to the vice peak master. But this vice peak master was a strange person. He was in closed-door cultivation for many years, and threw everything to his eldest disciple Xian Ning. Xian Ning was a very loyal person. It was a pity that after he reached the late Foundation establishment realm, he went out to train in order to find his own Yin corpse. It had already been 2 years, but there was no reply. If it wasn't for the fact that his soul lamp was still lit, people would have thought that he had already died. The sect master's mountain was like a group of dragons without a leader. Everyone swept the snow in front of their door, not caring about the frost on other people's roof. The new disciples were left to fend for themselves. There was no one to teach them techniques, and there was no one to guide them in cultivation. The disciples that joined before had all secretly changed sects and went to other peaks. The other peaks accepted them unconditionally, making the sect master's mountain even more desolate. The sect master's mountain is this desolate, but Elder Emohua and Elder Whitebone are still afraid of the sect master. This sect master is definitely not simple. Yin Zhuge had a look of sorrow. She had a very good impression of this sect master who saved her from danger. Chapter 351. Sect Master is in the later stages of the Golden Core realm, while Ink Flower and White Bone are in the early stages. How can they not be afraid? Zishang scoffed. Yin Zhuge was used to being beaten down by Zishang. He ignored his disdain and continued to ask, "Did you see Sect Master's face just now?" Besides finding secret rooms and breaking mechanisms, Zishang was also very good at peeking. "I saw a little, but I'm not sure." Zishang frowned. For some reason, he felt that Sect Master looked like a person. "What did you see? Draw it for me." Yin Zhuge felt that he had to at least have an idea of what Sect Master looked like. Otherwise, it would be embarrassing if he couldn't recognize him the next time they met. Zishang hesitated for a moment, but still drew the portrait of Sect Master. Yin Zhuge looked at the portrait of Sect Master and almost fainted. "Why did you draw Yin Shirley?" "That Sect Master looks like Yin Shirley," Zishang said. "Impossible." Yin Zhuge denied flatly. Yin Shirley was an unambitious little steward of the outer sect, who only wanted to reunite with his family. How could he be related to the mighty Lord Sect Master? This was simply too ridiculous. Zishang didn't explain further. Whether it was or not, there would be a chance to verify it in the future. Anyway, with him around, Xiao Zhuge wouldn't be at a disadvantage. Just then, the ground under Yin Zhuge's feet flashed yellow, and treasure-seeking scorpion appeared. It waved its 2 pincers excitedly and shouted, "Master, Master, I found a super good place. It's at the mountainside. Let's go take a look." Yin Zhuge immediately followed treasure-seeking scorpion to the mountainside excitedly. There were weeds in front of them, and it was extremely desolate. There wasn't a single cave abode nearby. It was really a good place to settle down. "Dig down from here, and you'll find a spirit vein." Treasure-seeking scorpion pointed to the ground. "Spirit vein? Don't tell me it's the spirit vein of Sect Master Peak." Yin Zhuge frowned. This was public property, and she couldn't do anything to it. No, this spirit vein is very small. It's just a branch." Treasure-seeking scorpion wasn't stupid. Why would it dig a hole for its master? Moreover, those thick, big, and good spirit veins were all occupied by others. It was impossible to go there even if it wanted to. "That's good." Yin Zhuge was completely relieved. He took out his bone spur and dug in the direction that the treasure-seeking scorpion had pointed. The hard and dry cave wall in front of him was as soft as tofu in front of the bone spikes. It was as easy as blowing off dust. Yin-Jyoga quickly dug out a passageway. When he sensed the dense spiritual energy, he immediately decided to stay there. She first installed the wooden door before setting up a defensive formation with Zishang. Finally, she hung up Yin-Jyo's name tag, officially declaring that this place belonged to her. After Yin-Jyoga fixed the lintel, he continued to build his little nest. She widened and enlarged the front chamber to serve as an antechamber for visitors. Then he dug out 4 ear chambers at the back, which were used as a quiet room, a bedroom, an alchemy room, and a spirit pet room. The meditation room, bedroom, and alchemy room were all very simple, but she had to spend a lot of effort to decorate the spiritual pet room. First, he divided the room into 3 separate rooms, then covered them with soft cotton wool, and planted different kinds of beautiful flowers to decorate them. Finally, he put the treasure-seeking scorpion couple, Pippi Mouse, and the insect cocoon made by the little mother goo into these 3 separate rooms. After eating the pearlfish's inner core, the female scorpion's body became fatter again, from the size of 3 fingers to the size of a palm. The originally light purple carapace now had a little colorful pattern, which would reflect a faint colorful light in places where the sun was strong. It was very beautiful. Wife, this is the place that Master arranged. Do you like it? The treasure-seeking scorpion said to his wife. Although it had also gained a lot of weight during this time, it looked a little petite next to the sturdy female scorpion. But it didn't care at all. Whenever there was something delicious to eat or drink, it would give it to his wife first. After the scorpion was full, he would start to eat the leftovers. However, the female scorpion would leave a lot of leftovers every time. I like it. It's so beautiful. The female scorpion crawled inside and circled a few times, reluctant to come out. However, what it liked the most was the scorpion grass at the entrance of the cave. That was the spiritual grass that accompanied the scorpion nest, and it was also the smell that it had smelled since it was young. It was at ease and comfortable, and it couldn't be any better. As long as you like it. The treasure-seeking scorpion was also very satisfied with this nest, and it felt even more certain that it had followed the right master. Especially after Yin-Jyoga gave them a bottle of cherry pills in the name of celebrating the housewarming. The husband and wife were so excited that they shed tears of gratitude. They said that they must hurry up and make scorpions, so that they wouldn't let down their master's expectations of them. You can't rush things like giving birth. You are still young, so don't be anxious. Let fate decide. Yin-Jyoga comforted them kindly. Master. The husband and wife and the 2 scorpions were even more moved. They hooked their tails together, looking like they couldn't wait to make little scorpions right away. Yin-Jyoga faked 2 coughs and tactfully retreated. When Yin-Jyoga left the spirit pet room, she didn't expect to see Zishang standing behind her when she turned around. She didn't know what he was thinking, but he was extremely lost in thought. What are you doing here? You can't be peeking at them making little scorpions, right? Yin-Jyoga looked at him with disdain, as if she didn't expect him to be such a demon. I can make little demons myself. Why do I need to peek at them? Zishang came back to his senses. He blinked his eyes, and the spring light shone in all directions. He had a flirtatious look again. Hee, then do your best. Yin-Jyoga patted Zishang's shoulder and went to the quiet room to prepare to meditate and cultivate. Before the news of the poison in her dantian came, Zishang could only hold back his dual cultivation. If the essence couldn't come out, where would she go to make little demons? So if Zishang wanted to, he could only do his best. Zishang wasn't annoyed. He followed Yin-Jyoga to the quiet room and accompanied her to watch her cultivate. A few days after Yin-Jyoga opened her cave, the omnipotent little fatty came to her door. How did you know that I live here? Yin-Jyoga was really shocked when she saw little fatty at the door. My uncle told me. He has already recorded your cave abode. Little fatty huffed heavily with his hands on his knees. His face was covered in sweat. An outer sect disciple like him couldn't use the God Strider talisman at the sect peak. He could only walk up step by step. He was almost exhausted to death. Yin Jioga didn't know that Jin Chuan would record her cave abode. But even so, Jin Chuan still hated it. But little Fatty's words were really cute. Therefore, Yin Jioga warmly invited little Fatty in as a guest. Senior brother Yin Jio, your place is amazing. Little Fatty looked at the spacious and clean cave abode before him with a face full of admiration. A chi refinement cultivator could enjoy such treatment. Even the sect master's own son didn't have it. Why are you looking for me today? Yin Jioga poured a cup of hot tea for little Fatty. Little Fatty picked it up and took a sip. Then he told Yin Jioga something very seriously. Chapter 352. The Liu sisters have been sent back to the Liu family? Yin Jioga was shocked when he heard the news. Why did they send him out all of a sudden? Moreover, he was a good seedling who had been through the trial in a small mystic realm. Elder Mo Hua gave the order. Little Fatty sighed. It's true that when the gods fight, the mortals suffer. Now the disciples of the second peak are having a hard time. They're being ostracized everywhere. Even when they go to take on missions, they're always met with all sorts of difficulties. It was fine for him and Ice Lotus to have someone protecting them in the inner sect, but the normal disciples were the ones who were being bullied. However, they still hugged each other even tighter. Elder Mo Hua and Elder White Bones have really put a lot of thought into this. Yin Jioga sneered. She knew that the two elders hated her, but she didn't expect it to be to this extent, that they wouldn't even let the small fries of Peak 2 off. They were probably doing this to incite the disciples of Mountain Number 2 to feel that they were implicated by her. When these disciples of Peak Number 2 joined the inner sect, they would definitely use all their means to target her. Her days would not be easy. Fortunately, Yin Jioga did not intend to stay in the Yin Corps sect forever. Actually, the people of Peak 2 have discussed it privately. We definitely can't go to Ink Flower Peak and White Bone Peak. Enemy Peak isn't a good place either. In the end, we can only follow you to Sect Master Peak. Little Fatty said carefully to Yin Jioga. Are you sure you didn't come here on your own? Yin Jioga couldn't help but glance at Little Fatty. This guy had an uncle who was a steward at the Sect Lord Peak, so he would definitely come to the Sect Lord Peak. However, the Sect Leader Peak was just too desolate. They were on the verge of defeat. And now Little Fatty had pulled in a large group of disciples. It was hard to say what would happen in the future, but it was definitely beneficial for Little Fatty. I will definitely come. However, it is all thanks to senior brother Yin Jio that I was able to convince them, Little Fatty said with a chuckle. Yin Jioga's performance in the small mysterious realm was obvious to everyone. She was calm and resourceful, and the rarest thing was that she was broad-minded. She was able to unite the low-level disciples instead of using them as cannon fodder. The people from the second peak all felt that they would definitely be able to make a living if they followed her. It was better than going to the other peaks and being trampled on. Forget it. Giving me face is more like giving him face. Yin Jioga raised his index finger and pointed to his left. Purple Decease Sword very cooperatively revealed himself, and then gradually disappeared. Little Fatty's eyes lit up and his excited voice began to tremble. This is your life-sourcing corpse? Yes, 1,000-year-old one. Yin Jioga kindly added. Little Fatty was even more excited. 1,000-year living corpse was a heavenly treasure that could challenge 3 Jindan stage elders. The Yin Corpse sect had been around for so many years, but only 3 people had obtained Yin corpses, and all of them had become powerful people. Senior brother Yin Jio is still so young, but he has already reached this level. His future is limitless, and following him is definitely the right choice. Yin Jioga waited for Fatty to calm down before asking with dissatisfaction. Why does your uncle always target me? No, my uncle is just that kind of person. He treats me the same way. Little Fatty quickly denied, afraid that his future boss would have a conflict with his uncle. Even to you? What? Don't you guys have a good relationship? Yin Jioga was trying to get information out of him. Before I was born, my uncle went out to travel. He only came back to see us 2 years ago. Afterwards, he said that my aptitude was not bad, so he let me come to the Yin Corpse sect. Normally, Other than asking him for information and going out to buy and sell, I rarely contact him. Little Fatty said honestly. Yin Jioga thought of Jinchuan's gloomy personality and his serious expression. He couldn't tell that he was a person who loved to buy and sell information, unless he had other plans. Little Fatty didn't want to talk about his uncle anymore, so he changed the topic. That's right, senior brother Yun Jio. I heard that you cured Sister Yue? Yes. Yin Jioga faintly smiled and casually said, your uncle also told me about this before. It seems like he is very interested in Sister Yue, but these two are quite a good match. Haha, senior brother Yin Jio, don't joke around. How could my uncle be interested in Sister Yue? He hates fickle and shameless women the most. Little Fatty laughed out loud. Every time Yue took in a male pet, his uncle would look like he wanted to kill someone. Good thing your uncle didn't go to the Joyous Union sect, or else he would have died from anger. Yin Jioga also laughed. Using his body to cure the poison of the woman he hated the most, this Jinchuan must have some secrets. That's right, that's right. Little Fatty also thought that his uncle was very funny. He was in an evil sect, but he still asked female disciples to be clean. Wasn't that against the sect rules? Yin Jioga chatted with Little Fatty for a while longer, and after he found out the time and route that the Lu sisters would be escorted back, he sent him away. Do you want to save the two sisters? Zishang, who had been listening on the side, appeared and asked Yin Jioga. No matter what, they were dragged into this by me. If I can save them, then I will. Yin Jioga indeed wanted to save the Lu sisters. Alright. As long as it was what Yin Jioga wanted, he would satisfy it, let alone such a small matter. It was dusk, and the dim yellow sun shone on the earth. On the rugged and steep mountain road, a large carriage with a spirit-sealing talisman stuck on it sped along. The old carriage driver, who had white sideburns and sallow skin, flicked his whip from time to time, directing the single-horned spirit horse to change direction. Beside the carriage were two middle-aged men, at the peak of the Qi refinement stage. They were both from the Lu family branch, and they were here to escort the Lu sisters back. The short one with drooping eyebrows was called Lu Yongfu. The tall one with a shrewd face was called Lu Yonggui. It's getting dark. Let's find a place to rest. Lu Yongfu rode the spirit horse to the old carriage driver's side and shouted. Master said we should try to get back within 5 days. The old carriage driver said awkwardly. If they did not ride at night, they would probably be delayed for a few more days. Are you stupid? Master only said try, not for sure. When the time comes, we can just find an excuse. Lu Yongfu looked impatient. He was at the peak of the Qi refinement stage, 5 realms higher than the old carriage driver, so he did not take him seriously at all. The old carriage driver was still a bit hesitant. Lu Yonggui ran over and advised, Old friend, listen to us. Later, find a place to settle down, and we'll let you enjoy it first. Enjoy. The old carriage driver was confused. He did not know what there was to enjoy in this wilderness. Idiot, you still don't understand. Lu Yongfu pointed at the carriage with the spirit-sealing talisman, and said lecherously, 2 beauties for you to play with first, isn't that enjoying? The old carriage driver was shocked, and hurriedly said, but this is the eldest and second miss of the family. Chapter 353. That's why it's so exciting. Lu Yongfu's eyes shone with a wretched light, looking like he couldn't wait. But the old driver couldn't help but swallow his saliva. He was obviously tempted, but he was still a little hesitant. Don't worry. Who doesn't know that eldest miss and second miss were sent by the patriarch to be cauldrons of the evil sect? They've been played to death over the years. The 3 of us are straightforward. The patriarch won't say anything if he knows. Lu Yonggui encouraged. That's right. I heard that the patriarch plans to send them to the furnace yard. In the future, they'll be able to kill tens of thousands of people. Let's just treat it as opening business for them. Lu Yongfu laughed. Alright. The old driver was quickly convinced. He had seen how the Lu sisters were taken into the carriage. If they went back, they would probably be sent to a brothel to be cauldrons, just like what those 2 guys said. Thinking about it this way, playing around was not a big deal. Moreover, When he thought about the high and mighty eldest miss and second miss being humiliated by a lowly driver like him, he was extremely excited. He immediately commanded the carriage to run towards the forest not far away. Inside the carriage, the Lu sisters who had been fed the paralysis medicine looked very miserable. Their hair was messy, their clothes were messy, their hands were tied behind their backs with a red rope, and their legs were also tightly bound. The most humiliating and hateful thing was that there was a black dog collar around their necks. It was chained to the head of the spirit-locking spell. "Sister, just listen to me this once." Lu Tian'er looked at Lu Mei'er pleadingly. "You don't need to say anything, I won't agree." Lu Mei'er was indifferent to her sister's pleading. "But if this goes on, we'll all die." Lu Tian'er's suppressed voice was full of pain. She had the netherworld Dao body. In the Yin Corpse sect, apart from cultivating the outer techniques, she had also secretly cultivated in the direction of a living corpse. She was worried that today's situation would happen again. The only way now was to die. As long as she died, she could directly turn into a living corpse and help her sister kill their way out. "Do you think I can live in peace if you die?" No one is allowed to give up until the last moment. Lu Mei'er gritted her teeth. She was already ruined, so she absolutely could not watch her sister walk on the road to death. "Sister." Lu Tian'er sighed, knowing that her sister would not give in. Anyway, her nether ghost aura could be activated at any time. She would just wait with her sister until the last moment. At this moment, the carriage suddenly stopped, and the tightly shut door opened, revealing a wretched and disgusting face. "Eldest miss, second miss, staying here must be very uncomfortable, right? This little one will immediately come to serve you. I guarantee that you will have a great time," Lu Yongfu said with a smile. "Pa, who do you think you are? How dare you offend your superiors? Aren't you afraid that your uncle will kill you?" Lu Mei'er raised her eyebrows, her expression extremely fierce. "Bitch, why don't you take a look at your current situation? You still dare to act mighty in front of me?" Lu Yongfu stretched out his hand and pulled the iron chain. Lu Meier's neck was strangled tightly, and her face immediately turned green. "Let go of my sister." Lu Tian'er was so angry that her eyes turned red. She wanted to rush over, but she was restrained by the dog leash, which made a rattling sound. "Bitch, serve me well, and I will make you feel better. Otherwise, I will make you suffer." Lu Yongfu turned his hand and slapped Lu Tian'er's face to one side, leaving a bright red palm print on her white face. "Alright, Yongfu, be gentle. No matter what, she is still the eldest and second miss of the Lu clan. You have to give her some face." Lu Yonggui came up to persuade him hypocritically. Lu Yongfu then let go of the iron chain in his hand. Looking at the bruise on Lu Meier's neck, his heart was indescribably satisfied and refreshed. He could not wait to add a few more marks on her body. "Didn't you say that you would let me enjoy first?" The old carriage driver squeezed in and looked at the Lu sisters greedily. "Can you go on too? Alright, you pick one first. Us two brothers will play with the other one. We will exchange later," Lu Yongfu said with a smile. "Alright, then I will pick second miss." The old carriage driver could not wait to climb into the carriage and pounce on Lu Tian'er. The other two snickered as they surrounded Lu Mei'er. The carriage became crowded with 3 men at once, and there was even a sweaty smell. Lu Mei'er bit her lips tightly. Her eyes were about to bleed, but she had no way to resist. It was just like when she was thrown to the evil old monster. However, at that time, the evil old monster was in the late stage of foundation establishment. After all, he was a character. He had plucked tens of thousands of girls, so the two sisters were nothing. Occasionally, when the old monster was in a good mood, he would even give them pointers in cultivation. But now these 3 pieces of trash were nothing. They were lowly people who were not even fit to carry shoes for the 2 sisters in the Lu clan. How dare they bully them? They deserved to die 10,000 times. Lu Tian'er stared at the old carriage driver. Her black eyes were burning with a cold flame. She was like a devil that crawled out of hell, and her whole body was emitting a terrifying aura. The old carriage driver was frightened by her gaze. He could not help but take a few steps back and bumped into the back of the other 2. "I say, old Tai, you're really too much of a coward. You don't even dare to touch a little girl whose spiritual power is sealed." It's better to stay on the side and come back after we've had our fun. Lu Yongfu scolded as he pushed the old carriage driver aside and walked towards Lu Tian'er. When he saw Lu Tian'er's terrifying gaze, his heart felt stifled. But he immediately slapped her and scolded. What are you looking at? Do you believe that I won't dig your eyes out? The flame in Lu Tian'er's eyes burned brighter and brighter. The ghost energy that had accumulated near her heart slowly exploded. She was about to be ignited and turned into a living corpse. At this moment, a cold voice sounded from outside the carriage. "Io, it's so lively here." The old carriage driver was shocked and quickly jumped out of the carriage. Lu Yongfu and Lu Yonggui also followed out and found that the defensive formation they had set up was trampled to pieces. A youth with red eyes and purple lips, who was at Qi Disciple Level 5, was standing in the middle and looking at them with interest. "Brat, I advise you to mind your own business. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died." Lu Yongfu found that the youth in front of him was only at Qi Disciple Level 5. He immediately let out a sigh of relief and fiercely shouted. Lu Yonggui was much more careful than him. He carefully looked at the youth in front of him and faintly guessed that he was a disciple of the Yin Corpse sect. He put on a smile and said, "Little brother, you also came because of the fragrance, right? You really know what's good for you. These two sisters are top quality goods. Now that they are under the spirit locking curse, we can do whatever we want with them. If you want to join in, it won't be difficult. You can come once for 600 spirit jades." Lu Yonggui actually sold the Lu sisters as cultivation furnaces on the spot. Chapter 354. Hihi. Lu Yongfu immediately understood Lu Yonggui's meaning. With a wretched smile he said, "Little brother, don't think that it's expensive. They are two sisters, and each of them is only worth 300 spirit jades. It's even cheaper than a roadside brothel. If you miss this village, there won't be another one. A business without any capital. You guys are smart." Yinjuga chuckled. The bloodthirsty bone spike silently emerged from the shadows of the carriage and flew towards Lu Yongfu with a red light. Lu Yongfu's nerves were stretched taut. He quickly raised a red defensive barrier, but it was instantly pierced through by the bloodthirsty bone spike. Lu Yonggui's complexion changed, and he quickly patted a few defensive charms on his body. However, before the defensive charm could light up, the bloodthirsty bone spike pierced through his chest, and he collapsed to the ground. The old driver was so frightened that he collapsed to the ground, staring at Yin Jioga, as if he had seen a ghost. They were both at Qi Disciple Stage 5, but that youth's bone spear was able to instantly kill two Qi Disciple Great Circle cultivators. This was simply unbelievable. Yin Jioga did not attack the old carriage driver. Instead, he commanded the bone spears to destroy all the spirit-locking curses outside the carriage. The Lu sisters' spiritual power returned to their bodies, and they immediately broke free of their bindings and rushed out of the carriage. Senior brother Yinjiao. Lu Tian'er's expression was emotional, and her beautiful eyes were filled with tears. Never in their wildest dreams did they expect that this senior brother would come and save them when they were at their most heartbroken and despairing. "I'm late. Are you guys all right?" Yin Jioga looked at the two sisters with a guilty expression. "We're fine." Lu Meier shook her head. Lu Tian'er looked at the two corpses on the ground and said fiercely, "Do you think you'll be at ease after you die? Watch how I'll deal with you." With that, she took out two red paper men and stuck them on their bodies. The two red paper dolls slowly lifted up, as if they were pulling something. Finally, they forcefully pulled out Lu Yonggui and Lu Yongfu's souls and locked them onto the red paper dolls. Lu Tian'er kept the red paper dolls and began to draw soul-imprisoning talismans on them. She would torture them when she had time in the future. Lu Meier, on the other hand, went to search the two people's storage pouches and took back her own storage pouch. "What do you plan to do with that person?" Yin Jioga gestured for the Lu sisters to look at the old coachman. "First miss, second miss, I was forced to do this. They said that if I didn't do as they said, they would kill me. I definitely didn't mean it." The old coachman cried and knelt on the ground to beg for mercy. "Since that's the case, you can go to the underworld and settle the score with them." Lu Mei Er revealed a sinister smile. However, she did not take out her bone spear. Instead, she took out a red doll from her storage pouch. The doll had hands and feet, and its hair was black and glossy. The joints of its fingers were distinct, and the workmanship was very exquisite. The strange thing was that there were no eyebrows, eyes, or nose on that round face, only a small cherry red mouth, as if it was smeared with blood. Good boy, go and avenge your sister. Lu Mei Er had a gentle yet strange smile on her face. She stroked the doll's shiny hair and put it on the ground. The rag doll wobbled its way towards the old coachman. First, miss, spare me, spare me. The old coachman's begging voice suddenly stopped as he fell down with wide eyes filled with fear. The red doll lay on his neck, revealing the sharp teeth in its small cherry red mouth. It bit into the old coachman's throat and sucked large mouthfuls of blood. Corpse doll, this one of yours is quite special. But this kind of special corpse could only be refined by the Lu sisters. Senior brother Yin Jiu overpraises me. Lu Mei Er smiled. After ordering the corpse doll to suck the old coachman dry, it went to suck the other two that had just died. What do you plan on doing in the future? Yin Jioga asked about serious matters. We'll talk after we leave this place. Lu Mei Er had a blank look on her face. She had the mark of a lowly slave on her body. Without the corpse sex array, she could not escape the Lu family's pursuit. They could find her at any time. Does senior brother Yin Jiu have any suggestions? Lu Tian put away the red paper man and looked at Yin Jiuga with a face full of expectation. After eating and drinking its fill, the corpse doll jumped onto her shoulder and tilted its head as it looked at Yin Jiuga. No. Yin Jiuga honestly shook her head. She was not familiar with this place, so she did not have any good suggestions. The Lu sisters' faces instantly dimmed. They could not go back to the corpse sect. If they went to another evil sect, there was a chance that they would be sent back. At that time, it would be hard to sneak away. Their spirit energy would be sealed by the sect, and they would be given to others. That would be even worse. No matter what, we have to thank senior brother Yin Jiu for saving our lives. If we have the chance, we will definitely repay you. Lu Mei Er forced herself to smile and said, There's no need to repay me, as long as you live well. Yin Jiuga waved her hand. She was only here to repay her debt. The Lu sisters became even more sad. Senior brother Yin Jiu was so strong. How could they repay him? It was all just empty words. It's getting late. You should leave now. Yin Jiuga saw Zishang's impatient expression and prepared to leave. Senior brother Yin Jiu, I have something to ask of you. Lu Tianer quickly said. Say it. After this separation, it would be difficult to meet again. So Yin Jiuga was quite easy to talk to. Senior brother Yin Jiu, since you are so good at alchemy, can you help my sister refine a pill that can cover the mark? Lu Tianer mustered up her courage and asked. Cover what mark? Yin Jiuga asked. The mark of a lowly slave. I have already been given to the evil old monster as a cauldron. He left a mark on my back. Lu Mei Er said before her sister could speak. Let me see. Yin Jiuga was expressionless. He did not look down on Lu Mei Er because of this, nor did he feel any sympathy. It was a very normal look. Lu Mei Er could not help but let out a sigh of relief. Although she had been trampled all these years, she still did not want to lose face in front of this senior brother. Here. Lu Tian did not think too much and pulled her sister's clothes to the left, revealing a dark red mark. The words lowly slave could be clearly seen. Yin Jiuga walked up to take a closer look and found that this mark was also a dark spirit talisman. It used the words lowly slave to drill into Lu Mei Er's bone marrow. The person who made the mark could then use this to determine where she said she was. This mark is made by a dark spirit talisman. No pill can cover it. Yin Jiuga shook his head. Even if he made a pill, it would only be able to cover it temporarily. Lu Tian was indescribably disappointed. Lu Mei Er was already used to facing disappointment. She even comforted her sister. It's okay. At most, we will leave the boundless mountains. I heard that the Zhongzhou is a good place. Let's find a place to cultivate and come back for revenge. Okay. Lu Tianer nodded. The Zhongzhou mountain was a place where evil, and righteous sects intersected. It was a very chaotic place. With the two sisters' current cultivation, it would be very dangerous. But as long as they could be with their sister, nothing else mattered. I only said that no pill can cover this mark. I did not say that it can't be removed. Yin Jyoga felt that these two sisters were too pessimistic. They did not wait for him to finish speaking. It was not a good habit. Chapter 355. Senior Yinjio, can you really help my sister remove the mark? Lu Tian'er's eyes lit up. Could it be that Yinjio was going to send out his 1,000-year zombie? But this 1,000-year zombie was not easy to talk to. How did Yinjio convince him? This brand has already penetrated deep into your bones. If you want to completely remove it, you have to cleanse this part of your marrow and bones. The process will be very painful. Can you endure it? There was no need for Zishang to do such a small thing. Yin Jyoga could do it himself. It was just that the process was a bit bloody and painful. It was up to Lu Mei'er whether she was willing or not. I can bear it, Lu Mei'er said without hesitation. As long as she could get rid of this slave identity, she was not afraid of any pain. Alright, let's find a safe place to start. Yin Jyoga could not leave the sect leader's peak for too long. Okay. The two sisters nodded. After burning all the traces, they left with Yin Jyoga. Yin Jyoga found a random cave and cleaned it up to make a simple stone bed. He then let Zishan take a look outside. Take off your clothes and lie down on the stone bed. Yin Jyoga said to Lu Mei'er as he prepared the spirit grass and medicinal ingredients. Lu Mei'er did not argue. She took off her shirt and wore only a pair of white underwear before lying on the stone bed. The gray stone bed, white skin, and crisscross red scars created a beautiful atmosphere. Any normal man would definitely be attracted. Unfortunately, Yin Jyoga was not in the mood to appreciate it. He was completely focused on concocting the medicine. Lu Tian'er nervously waited by the side. She looked at her sister, and then at Yin Jyoga. Use this medicine to wash your sister's back. Yin Jyoga concocted a bottle of light blue medicine and gave it to Lu Tian'er. What is it used for? Lu Tian'er could not help but ask. It's used for clearing heat and detoxifying sewage. Quickly apply it on her. Yin Jyoga said without turning his head, and poured the medicine into a small bowl. I'll apply it now. Lu Tian'er saw that Yin Jyoga was busy and did not dare to ask any more. She quickly took a white cloth and dipped it in the medicine before applying it carefully. Lu Mei'er could clearly feel the cold medicinal liquid spread over her body, bringing with it a taste similar to strong alcohol. After Lu Tian'er had applied the medicine carefully, Yin Jyoga put down the small bowl and walked over. She gestured a few times above Lu Mei'er's brand, then said to the two sisters, later on, I will first destroy this brand's talisman pattern, then force out its incantation source. Your sister's current cultivation is still not enough. When the time comes, I will need your help. Then what should I do? Lu Tian'er asked nervously. Just grab her feet and listen to my command. When I say charge, both of you have to force the source of the curse out at the same time. It's similar to how we caught the Een moths earlier. Yin Jyoga was confident in the twins' teamwork. Okay, I got it. Lu Tian'er immediately walked behind her sister and reached out to grab her feet. She aimed her palm at the Yongquan acupuncture point. There's no need to rush. There'll be at least 2 more hours before it starts. You should meditate and rest first. After that, recover your spiritual power, Yin Jyoga said. Just now Lu Tian'er had the thought of risking her life, so her heart meridians were a little chaotic. She needed to adjust her breathing. Okay. Lu Tian'er also knew that her body's condition was not good, so she obediently sat in a corner to recuperate. Yin Jyoga took out the Thunderfire needle and began to destroy the Een spirit talisman. Thanks to Zishang's advice, Yin Jyoga's understanding of talisman patterns had become much deeper. He had also studied the Een spirit talisman patterns thoroughly. After all, Een spirit talisman patterns were the most abundant in Een spirit talisman patterns in the Een corpse sect. The Een spirit talisman brand in front of him had a total of 108 meridians. Only by destroying them one by one in order would he be able to find the deepest incantation source. That was the key to removing the brand. Yinjuga calmed his mind. After confirming his target, the thunderfire needle immediately descended. The first meridian was destroyed with a bang, releasing a faint gray yin qi. Then the second meridian, third, fourth. In the beginning, the meridians were still very clear. After the 50th meridian, a thick gray shrouded the entire brand, making it impossible to see anything clearly. Fortunately, these meridians did not move. Yinjuga relied on his amazing memory to destroy all 108 meridians. After the gray qi dissipated, the thumb-sized incantation source was revealed. The gray qi was like a slug, tightly glued to Lumeyer's bones. The countless tentacle-like things under its body had already fused with the bone marrow. Charge, Yinjuga ordered. Lu Tianer, who had already woken up, grabbed onto her sister's foot. The moment she heard the order, she poured all of her spiritual energy into the slug and rushed towards the shoulder along with her sister's spiritual energy. The slug moved slightly and unwillingly floated up a little. The tentacles pulled on Lumeyer's bone marrow and pulled it up. Lumeyer was in so much pain that she broke out in cold sweat. Her fingers gripped the stone bed tightly, but she did not dare to say a word. Continue. Yinjuga focused all his attention on the slug's movements and ordered the Lu sisters to continue without a trace of politeness. Lumeyer was in so much pain that her face was covered in sweat. Her nails were deeply dug into the stone bed, but there was no reaction. Her consciousness became more and more blurry, and the circulation of her spiritual energy also slowed down. Senior Yunjiu, my sister can't hold on any longer. What should we do? Lu Tianer's heart ached when she saw her sister's blood-stained fingers. The amount of spiritual energy she poured into the slug also decreased. You have to hold on even if you can't, unless you want her to carry the mark of this lowly slave for the rest of her life. Yinjuga's tone was ruthless, but his eyes didn't even blink as he observed the slug. At this time, the slug had completely floated up, and more than half of its tentacles had been forced out. There was no way it could retreat at this critical moment. Sister, bear with it. It'll be fine once it's forced out. In the end, Lu Tianer hardened her heart and poured more spiritual energy into her sister's body. Lumeyer felt as if a small knife was scraping her bone marrow. The pain was so excruciating that her limbs began to violently twitch. Hold on a little longer. It'll be fine soon. Yinjuga firmly held on to Lumeyer. The slug had completely floated up, and only the thickest tentacle was stubbornly holding on. Yinjuga picked up the thunderfire needle and quickly plucked out the last tentacle. The slug completely lost its host and flew out like lightning. Just as Yinjuga was about to grab it, he heard Lumeyer scream. The spiritual energy in her body instantly collapsed, and she fainted on the bed. Even her heart stopped beating. Sister, Lu Tianer screamed, and hurriedly rushed over to check on her condition. Move, don't be a hindrance. Yinjuga couldn't care less about grabbing the slug. He hurriedly flipped Lumeyer over, and the thunderfire needle instantly landed on her heart. He made a hand seal and formed a small lightning bolt. Chapter 356. Purple lightning followed the needle and hit Lumeyer's chest. Her body bounced up and down, and after a few times, her heart finally started beating again. Sister, wake up. Lu Tianer patted her sister's face, tears streaming down her face. Give her this pill, she'll wake up in a bit. Yinjuga hurriedly threw down a pill and chased after her. If they couldn't catch the caterpillar, it would run back into Lumeyer's body and become a brand again. However, outside the door was a vast field. There was nothing around, and the caterpillar had long since disappeared. Are you looking for this? Zishang appeared in front of her, his slender fingers pinching a gray slug. Zishang, you're really amazing. I knew with you here, there would be no problems. Yinjuga forgot how cold she was when she sent Zishang to guard the door, and smiled innocently. As long as you know. Zishang glanced at her, and returned the slug to Yinjuga. Yinjuga wrapped it with spiritual power, and hurriedly returned to the cave. Zishang tactfully continued to guard the door. At this time, Lumeyer had already woken up, but she was still lying on the stone bed. No need to lie down. Quickly put on your clothes and come deal with the curse. Yinjoga put the slug in a small bowl he prepared. The small bowl was filled with the translucent liquid, refined from a spiritual treasure. The slug struggled desperately to leave, but it was as if it had fallen into a swamp and couldn't move. Lu Meier casually put on her clothes and asked Yunjioga, "How do I deal with this?" "Put 2 drops of blood in it, and it will be completely devoured within 3 days. Then you can find the person who put the curse on you," Yunjioga explained. "How far is it?" Lu Meier asked while dripping blood. "I can sense his location within 300 miles. This distance was enough for them to escape. Sister, this is great. We don't have to be afraid of that evil old monster coming to catch us anymore." Lu Tian'er was overjoyed. The Lu family only had one foundation establishment cultivator, and he wouldn't lower himself to kill the 2 sisters. Only that evil old monster in the middle stage of foundation establishment had been eyeing them covetously. Now that he had this location, he could avoid him in advance. "Thank you, senior brother Yunjio." Lu Meier carefully put away the small bowl and bowed to Yunjioga. "We sisters will repay the great kindness you have shown us in the future, even if we have to work like an ox or a horse." Lu Tian'er followed her sister's example and bowed to Yunjioga thrice. Yunjioga didn't avoid it. Although these things were nothing to her, it was like giving a new lease of life to these 2 sisters. It wasn't too much to accept their 3 kowtows. "Since you're fine, I'm relieved. Oh right, this is the bill for the removal of the brand. It's all the cost price. Take a look and see when you can return it." Yunjioga recorded all the materials needed to remove the brand on the spot, and wrote the prices neatly behind them. She had bought those materials with her own money. Of course, she had to pay for them. It was already very kind of her not to charge any medical fees or surgery fees. The Lu sisters had been with Yunjioga for a long time, and understood her personality very well. They didn't think there was anything wrong with this. However, after the 2 of them looked at the bill, their faces turned pale. Just the flowers and spirit herbs were worth tens of thousands of spirit jades. The other things were also worth 3,000 to 4,000 spirit jades. How could the 2 sisters take out such a sum of money right now? "Senior brother Yunjio, we don't have money right now. Can we put it on the bill first and return it later?" Lu Tian'er asked pitifully. "Give me whatever you have. We can owe the rest for now." Yunjioga was quite easy to talk to. At least, she didn't plan on emptying the 2 sisters' savings. However, rules were rules. There was no reason to make them pay for nothing. The Lu sisters had stayed in the Yin Corpse sect for more than half a year. They spent all their time cultivating. The little spirit jades they had saved were not even enough. It was useless even if they took it out. Most importantly, they had no one to rely on. If they gave away all their savings, they wouldn't even be able to support themselves in the future. "Sister, didn't you say that father left something for us? See if there's anything we can use to repay the debt." Lu Tian'er pulled on her sister's sleeve and gave her a look. Lu Meier immediately understood. Before their father died, he left a secret letter for the 2 sisters. He said that he found a ruin of evil cultivators in the central state. He told the 2 sisters to go there when they had the ability. That was why she said she wanted to go to the central state. This was their last resort. What if senior brother Yunjio became greedy after seeing the money? She didn't dare to take such a risk. Although senior brother is kind, we can't always let him work for free. Lu Tian'er gave her sister another look. The central state was very dangerous. It was too dangerous for the 2 sisters to go alone. Even if there really was something good in the ruin, it was not something they could think about. It was better to give it to senior brother Yunjio, as a way to repay him for saving their lives. Senior brother Yunjio was righteous and generous. He wouldn't mistreat them. Sister is right. Lu Meier quickly made her decision. She told Yunjioga about the ruin her father found in the central state. In the end, she sincerely said, "If senior brother Yunjio can accompany us to the central state, you can choose whatever you want from the ruin. Let me think about it." Yunjioga was not immediately moved. She began to evaluate whether this trip was worth it or not. She had heard about the chaos in the central state, but with Zishang by her side, it shouldn't be a big problem. When they passed by the Thunder Country, she could sneak back and give the Yi Yunji to Yi Yu. Thinking about it like this, she could kill two birds with one stone. Lu Mei nervously looked at Yunjioga. When she revealed this secret, she was worried that she would be silenced. Now seeing Yunjioga hesitate, she was worried that she wouldn't go. Since we've decided to go to the Central State, we need to make preparations. We can't just rush in like this. I need to go back and take care of the Yin Corpse sect. It would be best if the two of you go into seclusion and raise your cultivation to the next level. Then you can make some defensive items. As Yunjioga spoke, her thoughts became clear. She began to teach them by name. Lu Mei, although your Yin Corpse puppet is not bad, it lacks a core, so it isn't very strong. I'll lend you 5,000 spirit jades, and you can go to a nearby shop to find a good inner core. It would be best if it was a demonic monkey's inner core. I'll help you refine it into a core. Cores were usually made from demonic beasts' inner cores, and only weapon refiners could refine them. Because refining a core took a lot of effort, the lowest grade core would cost several tens of thousands of spirit jades, and it wasn't that easy to use. Although Yunjioga didn't know how to refine weapons, she knew how to refine pills. When the time came, the core could still be used. Chapter 357. Many thanks, senior brother. Lu Mei excitedly nodded her head. She had wanted to make a core for her Yin Corpse puppet for a long time. It was a pity that she was short of money and could only dream about it. She never thought that the opportunity would come so quickly. Senior brother, what about me? Lu Tian'er impatiently asked. A Yin Corpse puppet had already used up all of their savings. Other than the bone spikes on her body, she had nothing else useful. Your biggest weapon is yourself. The 9 Netherworld Dao body, a natural-born living corpse, was even stronger than Yi Yunji's Yin Spirit Dao body. Senior brother wants me to activate the 9 Netherworld Dao body? Lu Tian'er frowned and said. But the ghost qi on my body is already very heavy. If I do it again, I'm afraid my heart will be completely corroded by the ghost qi, and I'll become a living corpse. Actually, she didn't need to do it too many times. If she did it again, her little life would be over. I have a method here, but I don't know if you're willing to use it. Yunjioga said with some hesitation. Senior brother Yin, why don't you tell me? Lu Tian'er cautiously asked, not daring to rashly agree. This thing can help you solve the ghost qi problem. Yunjioga's right hand turned over, and a palm-sized black flower pot appeared. There were several red Yin spirit talismans carved on it. There was a layer of red soil in the flower pot, with a thumb-sized gray seed in the middle. She could faintly see a frightened face inside the seed. Isn't this the seed of the frightening spirit grass? Lu Tian'er asked in confusion. This frightening spirit grass not only emitted gray Yin qi, it would also scream when it smelled a person from afar. It was a seed unique to evil sections. The frightening spirit grass was usually used for defense, but there were people who specifically planted it in mass graves to create a terrifying aura, and then add in some Yin qi. The valley in the center of the Yin qi cemetery was filled with frightening spirit grass. It was used to maintain the Yin qi cemetery. If a disciple with insufficient cultivation entered the valley, they would be scared to death by the terrifying screams. That's right. This is a frightening spirit grass seed that I accidentally obtained. It needs large amounts of ghost qi to germinate. It's just right for your situation. Yunjioga pointed at the bottom of the flower pot, and the Yin spirit talismans around it, and said, This is a ghost-absorbing talisman. As long as you hold this flower pot, it will automatically absorb the ghost qi in your body. Really? Lu Tian'er was doubtful. Over the years, she had tried all kinds of methods to get rid of the cold ghost qi in her body, and she really didn't believe that this small and broken flower pot could solve the problem. Why don't you try it and you'll know? Yunjioga handed over the small flower pot. Lu Tian'er took it and placed her palm on the bottom of the flower pot. An extremely frightened face immediately appeared on the soul-shocking grass. The red soil rotated on its own without any wind, forming a small whirlpool. Lu Tian'er immediately discovered a huge suction force coming from the whirlpool, sucking in the Yin qi in her body. In less than an hour, the cold ghost chi that had troubled her for a long time was completely absorbed. The human face of the soul-shocking grass disappeared, and the red soil returned to its original position. The color was darker than before. Senior brother Yunjioga, you're really amazing. Lu Tian'er was full of admiration for Yunjioga. With this treasure, she could boldly use her netherworld Taoist body in the future. Senior brother Yunjioga, how long can this artifact be used for? Lu Meier was more cautious, worried that her sister would get carried away and overuse it. At least 150 times. At that time, the soil would turn black, and the soul-shocking grass would completely germinate. Yunjioga took out this artifact that could absorb ghost chi not to help Lu Tian'er, but because she needed high-quality soul-shocking grass to detoxify the second layer of the 9 bone shatterer's poison. Third-stage high-grade soul-shocking grass could be sold for about 20,000 spirit jades on the market, and 7,000 SEC contribution points were not hard to find. However, Zishang felt that it was impossible to buy high-quality soul-shocking grass outside, so he cultivated it himself. Zishang went to the Yin Energy Cemetery to get the best seed, and then went to Ink Flower Peak to dig up the last bit of blood soil. Finally, he refined this small flower pot, and gave it to her when he set off to save the Lu sisters. Originally, Yunjioga didn't want to use it. She felt that the Lu sisters were already miserable enough, and it was too much for her to use them. However, although this artifact can absorb ghost chi, if you use it for a long time, the netherworld Taoist body will slowly disappear. Although it won't affect your cultivation level, I still hope that you will think about it carefully. Not only would this thing absorb the Yin energy in Lu Tian'er's body, but it would also destroy her Taoist body. It was not a good thing. It's better if it disappears. Lu Tian'er didn't care about her broken body at all. Although her cultivation speed was slightly faster than others, it was not worth mentioning compared to the consequences of being exposed. Senior brother Yunjio, are you sure that disappearing Taoist body won't affect my sister? Lu Meier asked nervously. She was afraid that her sister would become a cripple if her Taoist body disappeared, and that would be the end of her. There will more or less be some side effects. After her netherworld Taoist body disappears, she won't be able to unleash the power of a living corpse, and her cultivation speed will also decrease. She will probably drop to the same level as you. Yunjioga said truthfully. It will be good if she can reach the same speed as my sister. Lu Tian'er felt that her sister's cultivation speed was still very fast. It's great that she won't become a living corpse again. Lu Meier was also very satisfied. Since you guys have agreed, then keep the flower pot. I'll get you another one when it's no longer needed. Although Yunjioga only needed one soul-shocking grass, it would be good to grow it and store it. Zishang had said that the soul-shocking grass had other special uses. Thank you, senior brother. Lu Tian'er put the flower pot away like a treasure. If there's nothing else, I'll return to the Yin Corpse sect first. I'll go to the Central Plains in 3 months. Take these 2 communication talismans. I'll inform you when the time comes. Yunjioga took out 2 high-level communication talismans and generously said that he wouldn't charge them for it. Senior brother, take care. The Lu sisters happily took the communication talismans and respectfully sent Yunjioga off. Sister, where are we going next? Lu Tian'er turned her head and looked at her sister with a burning gaze. There's still some time left. Let's go into seclusion to heal first, then go back to the Lu family to see our good uncle. Lu Meier's gaze was vicious. Although they were still not her uncle's match, they could still give him some trouble to take revenge. Yunjioga didn't know that the Lu sisters' confidence had increased after receiving her guidance, and were preparing to go to the Lu family to cause trouble. After she returned to her cave abode, she began to busy herself with her plan. She didn't know how long it would take to go to the Central Plains this time, so she had to think of a way to go into seclusion. Chapter 358. We've already gone into closed-door cultivation once. What excuse do you think we should come up with? Yunjioga asked Zishang. What's there to think about? It's only natural for cultivators to go into seclusion. Zishang gave her a contemptuous look. I'm just feeling guilty. She had gone into seclusion to cultivate the last time, after she had finished setting up the abode of a mortal's cave. Until little Fatty came to find her. Now that she said she wanted to go into seclusion again, she felt that it was inappropriate. Zishang was speechless when faced with such an honest Yin Juga. Forget it. Let's get ready for seclusion first. Yin Juga quickly made a decision. He went to the mission hall to get a token to enter the Yin Energy Cemetery. The journey to Zhongzhou was quite long, and the Lu sisters were poor, so they needed her help. She planned to refine some Yin Meridian protection pills and sell them in a nearby workshop to earn some traveling expenses. The Yin Meridian Protection Pill was a Tier 3 pill, an upgraded version of the Yin Gathering Pill. It could increase the speed of a Foundation establishment cultivator's cultivation. It was said that a single low-grade spirit pill could be sold for 5,000 spirit jades. However, refining this pill required a large amount of Yin Qi, so he had to go to the Yin Qi cemetery to collect it. The mission hall of the Inner Sanctum disciples looked magnificent. There were all kinds of missions inside, and the contribution points were several times higher than the Outer Sanctum missions. At this moment, there were hundreds of people gathered inside, and it was very noisy and lively. Yin Jioga walked into the Hall of Missions and glanced around. He then walked to the front desk where there were fewer people. The disciple in charge was dressed in black with a white skull embroidered on his chest. He was a disciple of White Bone Peak. At this moment, he had his head lowered and seemed to be organizing something. I want to take the mission to kill Yin ghosts, Yin Jioga said. Just a moment. The disciple in charge raised his head and saw Yin Jioga. He immediately frowned and said, "This is not a place for outer sect disciples like you. I am an inner sect disciple of the sect Master Mountain." Yin Jioga knew that his cultivation level had caused a misunderstanding. Although she had already advanced to the 6th stage of Qi cultivation, there was still a long way to go before she reached the foundation building stage. It was no wonder that this disciple would misunderstand. Sect Leader Peak? The disciple in charge seemed to have thought of something as he sized up Yin Jioga. It seemed like he had already recognized her. The commotion here also attracted the attention of the surrounding people, and the sounds of discussion arose. Is that the disciple who was tortured by the 1,000-year-old corpse? That's right, the one who sells chrysanthemums in exchange for cultivation. He's not bad looking. No wonder he's taken a fancy to him. Tisk, it's neither human nor ghost, neither yin nor yang. It's disgusting to look at it. Thanks to Elder Emohua and Elder Baigu, Yin Jioga had become famous in the Yin Corpse sect. People called him a little boy selling chrysanthemums. Yin Jioga didn't think that selling chrysanthemums had anything to do with him, so his expression didn't change. He continued to say to the disciple in charge, "The task of killing the evil ghost, thank you." The disciple in charge rolled his eyes and revealed an embarrassed expression. He said to Yin Jioga, "I'm sorry, the task of killing the Yin ghosts has been taken." Yin Jioga looked at the mission list hanging high in the back of the mission hall and narrowed her eyes. Trying to trick her? How bold. These missions have already been confirmed by the people from Whitebone Peak and Inkflower Peak. They will come over to collect them later. The disciple in charge raised his voice and shouted, Yeah, we've already made up our minds." The disciples of the Whitebone Peak and the Inkflower Peak in the lobby immediately gathered around and accepted all the tasks of killing the ghosts in a flurry. The other disciples at the front desk also quietly accepted the task. The disciple in charge smiled and introduced to Yin Jioga with pretended enthusiasm. "Junior brother, in fact, we have many tasks with high contribution points here. For example, guarding the mine and staying there for a month can get 5,000 contribution points. And this, killing the demonic beasts in the Deep Abyss Valley can get 10,000 contribution points." Yin Jioga glanced at the mission recommended by the disciple. Not only did they have to leave the Yin Corpse sect, but they were also very difficult. There were very few people who accepted them. It was obvious that they had bad intentions. Yin Jioga politely said, "Thank you for your kindness, senior brother. However, I need to go into seclusion to collect Yin Qi. Since I've finished today's task of killing Yin ghosts, I'll come back tomorrow." Yin Jioga politely said, Junior brother, the task of killing the evil ghosts has been taken by our Ink Flower Peak and White Bone Peak recently. I'm afraid that you will come here in vain tomorrow. The disciple in charge saw Yin Jyoga's weak and bullied appearance, so he gradually became bolder. The other disciples also followed and said, not to mention tomorrow, even the day after tomorrow or the year after next, there will be no task for you. Just go back and hug your old corpse to sleep. You can go up a few days with your cultivation. Why do you still have to work so hard? That's right, you can cultivate while lying down. I am so envious. The disciples present were all at the early stage of foundation establishment. In their eyes, the chi condensation stage was like an ant that could be easily crushed. Although everyone knew that Yin Jyoga had a 1,000-year-old corpse, they were not convinced until they saw it with their own eyes. Yin Jyoga looked at these people who were not afraid of death with interest. On the contrary, Zishang was a little impatient. He raised his palm, and countless fishes of purple mist slithered behind the triumphant disciples, opening their mouths and ripping off their clothes. Ah! Those disciples who were teasing were horrified to find that their clothes were quickly disappearing, and their bodies were involuntarily flying outside. In the blink of an eye, half of the people in the mission hall had been cleared. The disciple in charge was at the top of the mission hall, and below him was a row of fellow sufferers. All of them were naked, and the words F***CKME were very eye-catching. Leave a pair of pants, so that my eyes won't be dirty. Yin Jyoga added coldly. The disciples who were about to run naked managed to save their last bit of dignity, and a small piece of cloth covered their sensitive parts. I should have given them some aphrodisiac. Zishang was a little regretful. If it was somewhere else, he would be able to have a good time. Is aphrodisiac free? Yin Jyoga silently rolled her eyes. They were just a bunch of disciples who were gossiping, and it was enough to teach them a lesson. Why waste so much effort? Completing the mission was more important. Yin Jyoga changed to another receptionist. This time, it was a female disciple from the Ink Flower Peak. As soon as she saw her, she couldn't help but cross her arms, as if she was afraid of being molested. Even if the Ink Flower Peak was open, it was not open to the point of stripping naked for others to see. Miss, do you still have missions to kill Yin ghosts? Yin Jyoga asked very politely. Yes. The female disciple immediately took out a few tokens to enter the Yin Energy Cemetery, and respectfully placed them in front of Yin Jyoga. Thank you. Yin Jyoga randomly chose a token, and left the silent mission hall. She looked at the door, and saw white skin, black leg hair, and a small piece of cloth in the middle. It was clear at a glance whether it was big or small. TSK, what an eyesore! Why are you still looking at it? Zishang turned Yin Jyoga's head back, and pulled her away. Behind him, a small breeze blew, and countless small pieces of cloth fell, causing countless female disciples to scream excitedly. Chapter 359. Yin Jyoga entered the Inchi cemetery with the token in hand. With a single glance, he saw two groups of outer disciples confronting each other. One group was the low-level disciples of Peak 2. The leader was a disciple called Chun Feng, who had a good relationship with Little Fatty. The other group was the high-level disciples of Peak 3. They were smiling nastily at Chun Feng and said, "Hand over the Inchi bottle obediently, and we can spare your lives." "Don't go too far," Chun Feng said angrily. Recently, they had been constantly troubled by the high-level disciples of Peak 1 and 3, especially those from Peak 3, who entered the Inchi cemetery without doing any work. Instead, they were waiting to rob them. They had risked their lives to obtain the Inchi. Without the Inchi, they couldn't cultivate. They couldn't even pay the basic contribution points. This was no different from forcing them to death. "So what if I bully you guys?" Those high-level disciples laughed. "Enough less nonsense. Just grab it and leave. I'm busy." The other high-level disciples did not say anything else. They took out their bone spikes and charged at Chun Feng. "Formation!" Chun Feng shouted, and took the initiative to attack with his frosty Inchi palm. The other low-level disciples attacked as well. The white frosty Inchi and Inchi intertwined, blocking all the attacks from the high-level disciples. Their training in the Little Arcana realm was not for naught. They had perfected this move, and its power was extraordinary. Unfortunately, they had exhausted too much spiritual energy in the Inchi cemetery. Soon, a hole appeared in their defense formation. Kill them. The morale of the Peak 3 disciples was high. More than 10 bone spikes charged toward Qinfeng. Qinfeng's face paled. His life was in danger. Suddenly something happened. Suddenly, numerous gray vines shot out from the grayish-brown ground under the Peak 3 disciples' feet, trapping them on the spot. Retreat! Qinfeng immediately led his group and started running. They maintained their formation quite well. From the looks of it, they were well trained. Yin Jioga saw that Qinfeng's group was almost done running, so she prepared to retract the gray vines. Zishang looked at Yin Jioga puzzled. Why not kill them? There's always the next batch after killing them. There's no need. Although Yin Jioga had heard that the disciples of Peak 2 were being bullied because of her, she still felt bad seeing it with her own eyes. Releasing a tiger back into the mountains will only bring about endless trouble in the future. Zishang's expression was one of disapproval. After this batch of high-ranking disciples went out, they would only become more aggressive in bullying those low-ranking disciples. I only said that I wouldn't kill them, but I didn't say that I would let them off so easily. Yin Jioga revealed a sly smile. With a flick of his finger, several gray dots landed on the bodies of those high-ranking disciples. This was a paralysis powder. It would take effect in an hour. If they behaved themselves, they would be fine, but once they used their spiritual power, their whole body would be paralyzed, and they wouldn't be able to move. If he went to find trouble with those low-level disciples on the second peak, he would only end up getting beaten up. Yin Jioga clapped his hands and continued walking towards the inner circle. The withered vines and dead trees in the inner circle were filled with wandering level 2 Yin ghosts. They would rush over as soon as they smelled the scent of humans. The little skeleton monkey, hanging on her waist, looked as if it had nothing left to live for. It hung its neck motionlessly. This is very likely to be the last time we enter the Yin Energy Cemetery. Are you sure you don't want to eat to your heart's content? Yin Jioga took out 4 bone spurs and killed a group of Yin ghosts like skewering candied haws. After advancing to Qi Disciple Stage 6, her spiritual power circulation became smoother, and her control of the bone spurs became more precise. Unfortunately, she still couldn't fly on her tool. When the little skeleton monkey heard Yin Jioga's words, it instantly came back to life. It climbed onto her shoulder with its hands and feet, and opened its mouth to absorb Yin energy desperately. The two of them, one killing and one absorbing, were extremely efficient. Gradually, they walked into the depths of the inner circle. Yin Jioga killed until dusk and returned with a full load. At this time, the naked man at the entrance of the mission hall was already gone. The disciple in charge of handing over missions respectfully helped her record the mission. He didn't even dare to let out a fart. After Yin Jioga used her contribution points to exchange for the herbs to concoct the Yin Meridian Protection Pill, she returned to the sect's main peak. In the distance, she saw Jin Chuan standing in front of her cave with a gloomy face. There was even a little fatty following behind him. He was constantly giving her a meaningful look, as if something bad had happened. Senior brother Jin Chuan, how come you have the time to visit my humble home? Yin Jioga pretended not to see the little fatty's eyes as she coldly greeted Jin Chuan. Did you do what happened in the mission hall today? Jin Chuan asked with a straight face. What does senior brother mean? Yin Jioga had an innocent face. We are all fellow disciples. Even if there was a quarrel, you can't hang them up there and humiliate them. Jin Chuan was very angry. Just now, a bunch of disciples had come over to complain about their humiliations, forcing him to come and seek justice. It was all Yin Jioga's fault. I'm wrongly accused. I'm only in the Qi disciple stage. How could I have the ability to humiliate those foundation establishment stage senior brothers? If you don't believe me, you can ask the senior brothers and sisters who gave out the mission. I didn't move a single finger from beginning to end. Yin Jioga swore that what she said was the truth. You didn't move. Then what about your Yin corpse? Jin Chuan knew that Yin Jioga didn't have this ability, but who told her to have such an amazing person by her side? I don't know about this, how about I call him out and you ask him yourself? Yun Jioga had never given Zishang an order to humiliate people, so she didn't want to take the blame for this. Uncle, I believe that senior brother Yun Jioga is innocent. Is there a misunderstanding here? Little Fatty carefully tried to smooth things over. What misunderstanding could there be? It was just those cheap-mouthed disciples ganging up to deal with Yun Jioga, but they were slapped in the face instead. Jin Chuan was very clear on this point. He only came here today to show his attitude. He wasn't stupid enough to negotiate with a 1,000-year-old corpse. We'll just forget about this matter. You just need to be a bit more obedient in the future. Jin Chuan drew a full stop. Senior brother Jin Chuan, you can be assured, I'm going into closed-door cultivation. I won't come out until I reach the foundation establishment stage. Yin Jioga promised. Closed-door cultivation again? Jin Chuan knit his brows and said, although you have the help of your Yin corpse, it's unknown how long it'll take for you to reach the foundation establishment stage. In another half a year is our Yin corpse sex fiend corpse slaying event. You have to come out and participate at that time. But I'm only a chi condensation stage disciple. Yin Jioga felt a headache just hearing about the secret realm. Every peak has to send out 2 people. The 3 great elders have asked you to represent our sect's main peak. Elder Mo Hua has already said that if you don't go, you'll be violating the sect's rules. If it's light, you'll be sent back to the outer sect. If it's heavy, you'll be kicked out of the Yin Corpse sect. Jin Chuan telling Yin Jioga this news ahead of time was already very benevolent. Many thanks for senior brother Jin Chuan's reminder, I understand. Yin Jioga nodded his head to show that he understood. You're on your own. Jin Chuan waved his sleeve and left. Chapter 360. Yin Jioga entered the Yin Chi cemetery with the token in hand. With a single glance, he saw 2 groups of outer disciples confronting each other. One group was the low-level disciples of Peak 2. The leader was a disciple called Chen Feng, who had a good relationship with Little Fatty. The other group was the high-level disciples of Peak 3. They were smiling nastily at Chen Feng and said, hand over the Yin Chi bottle obediently, and we can spare your lives. Don't go too far, Chen Feng said angrily. Recently, they had been constantly troubled by the high-level disciples of Peak 1 and 3. Especially those from Peak 3, who entered the Yin Chi cemetery without doing any work. Instead, they were waiting to rob them. They had risked their lives to obtain the Yin Chi. Without the Yin Chi, they couldn't cultivate. They couldn't even pay the basic contribution points. This was no different from forcing them to death. So what if I bully you guys? Those high-level disciples laughed. Enough, less nonsense. Quickly snatch it and leave. I'm busy. The other high-level disciples did not say anything else. They took out their bone spurs and charged at Chen Feng. Formation! Chen Feng shouted and took the initiative to attack with his frosty Yin Chi palm. The other low-level disciples attacked as well. The white frosty Yin Chi and Yin Chi intertwined, blocking all the attacks of the high-level disciples. Their training in the Little Arcana realm was not for naught. They had perfected this move, and its power was extraordinary. Unfortunately, they had exhausted too much spiritual energy in the Yin Chi cemetery. Soon, a hole appeared in their defense formation. Kill them. The morale of the Peak 3 disciples was high. Over 10 bone spurs charged toward Chen Feng. Chen Feng's face paled. His life was in danger. Suddenly something happened. Suddenly numerous gray vines shot out of the grayish-brown ground under the Peak 3 disciples' feet, trapping them on the spot. Retreat! Chen Feng immediately led his group and started running. They maintained their formation quite well. From the looks of it, they were well trained. Yin Jioga saw that Chen Feng's group was almost done running, so she prepared to retract the gray vines. Zishang looked at Yin Jioga puzzled. Why not kill them? There's always the next batch after killing them. There's no need. Although Yin Jioga had long heard that the disciples of Peak 2 were bullied because of her, she still felt bad seeing it with her own eyes. Releasing a tiger back into the mountains will only bring about endless trouble in the future. Zishang's expression was one of disapproval. After this batch of high-ranking disciples went out, they would only become more aggressive in bullying those low-ranking disciples. I only said that I wouldn't kill them, but I didn't say that I would let them off so easily. Yin Jyoga revealed a sly smile. With a flick of his finger, several gray dots landed on the bodies of those high-ranking disciples. This was a paralysis powder. It would take effect in an hour. If they behaved themselves, they would be fine, but once they used their spiritual power, their whole body would be paralyzed and they wouldn't be able to move. If he went to find trouble with those low-level disciples on the second peak, he would only end up getting beaten up. Yin Jyoga clapped his hands and continued walking towards the inner circle. The withered vines and dead trees in the inner circle were filled with wandering level 2 Yin ghosts. They would rush over as soon as they smelled the scent of humans. The little skeleton monkey, hanging on her waist, looked as if it had nothing left to live for. It hung its neck motionlessly. This is very likely to be the last time we enter the Yin energy cemetery. Are you sure you don't want to eat to your heart's content? Yin Jyoga took out 4 bone spurs and killed a group of Yin ghosts like a skewer of candied haws. After advancing to Chi Disciple Stage 6, her spiritual power circulation became smoother, and her control of the bone spurs became more precise. Unfortunately, she still couldn't fly on her tool. When the little skeleton monkey heard Yin Jyoga's words, it instantly came back to life. It climbed onto her shoulder with its hands and feet, and opened its mouth to absorb Yin energy desperately. The 2 of them, one killing and one absorbing, were extremely efficient. Gradually, they walked into the depths of the inner circle. Yin Jyoga killed until dusk and returned with a full load. At this time, the naked man at the entrance of the mission hall was already gone. The disciple in charge of handing over the mission respectfully helped her to record the mission. He didn't even dare to fart. After Yin Jyoga used her contribution points to exchange for the herbs to concoct the Yin Meridian Protection Pill, she returned to the sect's main peak. In the distance, she saw Jin Chuan standing in front of her cave with a gloomy face. There was even a little fatty following behind him. He was constantly giving her a meaningful look, as if something bad had happened. Senior brother Jin Chuan, how come you have the time to visit my humble home? Yin Jyoga pretended not to see the little fatty's eyes as she coldly greeted Jin Chuan. Did you do what happened in the mission hall today? Jin Chuan asked with a straight face. What does senior brother mean? Yin Jyoga had an innocent face. We are all fellow disciples. Even if there was a quarrel, you can't hang them there and humiliate them. Jin Chuan was very angry. Just now, a bunch of disciples had come over to complain about their humiliations, forcing him to come and seek justice. It was all Yin Jyoga's fault. I'm wrongly accused. I'm only in the Chi disciple stage. How could I have the ability to humiliate those foundation establishment stage senior brothers? If you don't believe me, you can ask the senior brothers and sisters who gave out the mission. I didn't move a single finger from beginning to end. Yin Jyoga swore that what she said was the truth. You didn't move, then what about your Yin corpse? Jin Chuan knew that Yin Jyoga didn't have this ability, but who told her to have such an amazing person by her side? I don't know about this. How about I call him out and you ask him yourself? Yin Jyoga had never given Zishang an order to humiliate people, so she didn't want to be the scapegoat. Uncle, I believe that senior brother Yin Jyoga is innocent. Is there a misunderstanding here? Little Fatty carefully tried to smooth things over. What misunderstanding could there be? It was just those cheap-mouthed disciples ganging up to deal with Yin Jyoga, but they were slapped in the face instead. Jin Chuan was very clear on this point. He only came here today to show his attitude. He wasn't stupid enough to negotiate with a 1,000-year-old corpse. We'll just forget about this matter. You just need to be a bit more obedient in the future. Jin Chuan drew a full stop. Senior brother Jin Chuan, you can be assured, I'm going into closed-door cultivation. I won't come out until I reach the foundation establishment stage. Yin Jyoga promised. Closed-door cultivation again? Jin Chuan knit his brows and said, although you have the help of your Yin corpse, it's unknown how long it'll take for you to reach the foundation establishment stage. In half a year it will be our Yin corpse sex fiend corpse slaying event. You have to come out and participate at that time. But I'm only a Chi condensation stage disciple. Yin Jyoga felt a headache just hearing about the secret realm. Every peak has to send out 2 people. The 3 great elders have asked you to represent our sect's main peak. Elder Mo Hua has already said that if you don't go, you'll be violating the sect's rules. If it's light, you'll be sent back to the outer sect. If it's heavy, you'll be kicked out of the Yin Corpse sect. Jin Chuan telling Yin Jioga this news ahead of time was already very benevolent. Many thanks for seeing your brother Jin Chuan's reminder. I understand. Yin Jioga nodded his head to show that he understood. You're on your own. Jin Chuan waved his sleeve and left. Chapter 361. Alchemist Yin, please don't misunderstand. I just feel that this Yin Meridian Nourishing Pill is different from the ones I've seen before. That's why I have some doubts. Shopkeeper Jin said apologetically, and took out the pills they sold in their shop to show Yin Jioga. The pills sold by the Myriad Treasure Pagoda were all light red in color. They were very beautiful, and carried a faint fragrance. Yin Jioga's dusty pill was placed at the side like trash. It was no wonder that shopkeeper Jin was suspicious. Your Yin Meridian Nourishing Pill uses the power of herbs as its foundation, and focuses on protecting the meridians. Mine uses the power of Yin Qi as its foundation, and focuses on cultivating and protecting the meridians. To put it bluntly, her pill was more impressive and more suitable for evil cultivators. Could it be that Alchemist Yin has the dark pill recipe? Shopkeeper Jin's eyes immediately lit up, and his small eyes became much bigger. Their Myriad Treasure Pagoda had branches all over the world, but they could not make a big deal in the evil and demonic sections. The root of the problem was that the alchemists they supported were mainly spirit alchemists. They could not concoct pills that were most suitable for the evil and demonic sections. Dark alchemists were eccentric and few in number. Most of them were supported by the evil and demonic sects themselves. It was too difficult to nurture them. If he could purchase a dark spirit pill recipe from this group of cloaked alchemists, not only could he increase the shop's sales, he might even be able to attract some loose cultivators. I'm just an errand boy. I'm just selling on behalf of a certain master. Yin Jioga waved her hand. I wonder if Alchemist Yin can help me ask if that master is willing to give up that dark pill recipe? The price can be negotiated. Although Yin Jioga was wearing a black cloak, shopkeeper Jin could still see that her cultivation was not very high. He did not believe that she was dark alchemist. Shopkeeper Jin should know dark alchemist's temper very well. If I go back and ask for you, I'm afraid I won't be able to come out alive. It's more practical to maintain our cooperation. Yin Jioga lowered her voice. Although selling the pill recipe would make a lot of money, it would also be much more troublesome. Alchemist Yin is right. I was too rash. I wonder how many spirit jade you plan to sell it for? Although shopkeeper Jin felt that it was a pity, he knew that this matter could not be rushed. He had to establish a good relationship with this person first. Shopkeeper Jin, why don't you find an expert and give me a price? Otherwise, you will think that I'm being greedy. This batch of Yin Meridian Nourishing Pills could only be sold at a good price if they were given to someone who knew their stuff. Shopkeeper Jin obviously did not know his stuff. You are right, Alchemist Yin. Shopkeeper Jin nodded and asked the waiter to summon Alchemist Chen. Alchemist Chen's temples were graying. He wasn't tall, and there were 2 deep wrinkles at the corners of his mouth. He looked like a rigid person. Alchemist Chen, we have a batch of Yin Meridian Protection Pills made from a dark elixir recipe. Please give us a price. Shopkeeper Jin said politely to Alchemist Chen. Alchemist Chen nodded expressionlessly. Then, he reached out with his shriveled hand and picked up a gray pill. He first sniffed it, then added some more. Finally, he asked the waiter to bring over a bowl of clear dew water to dissolve the pill. The clear dew water that was originally so clear that the bottom could be seen immediately turned into an incomparably dense gray. And there was even a gray gas rising up. That was the Yin Qi evaporating. Alchemist Chen dipped his index finger into the liquid and sucked on it. Then, he poured the liquid into his mouth and closed his eyes to rest. Yin Jioga frowned as he watched. He felt that this little old man was a little unreliable. High-grade medicinal pill. Alchemist Chen said with a straight face. Then, he turned around and left without looking at Yin Jioga. Alchemist Yin, the medicinal pills of our 10,000 treasure tower are 5 Spirit Master Spirit Stones for 1. The medicinal effect of yours is a little denser. How about 6 Spirit Stones for 1? Shopkeeper Jean asked with a smile. Sure. This price was within Yin Joga's budget. 1 spiritual stone was equivalent to 1,000 spiritual jades. 100 medicinal pills would be 600 spiritual stones. 60,000 spiritual jades was a huge sum of money. Shopkeeper Jean was all smiles as he received the 100 pills and gave Yin Joga 600 pieces of low-grade spirit stones. These spirit stones were each the size of a palm. They were completely transparent and had a faint blue tint to them. The spirit chi within them was much denser than that of the spiritual jades. When will Alchemist Yin be working with us again? Shopkeeper Jean asked again. I don't know. Yin Joga had received a huge sum of money. He did not plan to seek fame for the time being. If you still have medicinal pills, please come to our store. We will definitely give you a satisfactory price. Shopkeeper Jean was very sincere. Of course, of course. Yin Joga returned the favor. Oh right, Alchemist Yin. We have recently received a new batch of high-quality spiritual medicine. Are you interested in taking a look? Shopkeeper Jean started to solicit business. The person in front of him was not only a good business partner, but also a rich man. How could he just let him go? I do not lack spiritual medicine, but I would like to buy a convenient Dharma artifact. It would be best if it was a small knife, 7 inches long and 1 finger wide. Yin Joga gestured at the scalpel in his mind. Shopkeeper Jean listened attentively and said, We do have a few decent knives in our store. I wonder what grade of Dharma artifact you would like. A 3rd grade one will do. We have some decent 2nd grade ones. You can also take a look. 3rd grade Dharma artifacts were for Foundation Establishment cultivators. 2nd grade Dharma artifacts were for Chi refinement cultivators. Yin Joga only said this because he wanted to hide his true strength from Shopkeeper Jean. Alchemist Yin, please wait a moment. Shopkeeper Jean went out and returned in less than 15 minutes with an exquisite storage pouch. Then he took out 2 red brocade boxes and opened them one by one in front of Yin Joga. In the first brocade box, it was more like a dagger than a knife. It had a dark red hilt and a snow-white blade that emitted a cold and sharp light. In the second brocade box, there was a razor blade. It did not even have a handle. The blade was extremely thin and looked extremely sharp. These 2 knives are the most popular Dharma artifacts in our million treasure due. They are extraordinarily sharp. Even an elementary Foundation Establishment cultivator's protective spiritual barrier can be easily pierced through. Both of them cost 500 spirit stones. Shopkeeper Jean enthusiastically introduced them. But I didn't buy it to make a weapon. I bought it to dig out flesh. Yin Joga was actually quite satisfied with these 2 swords. Unfortunately, they were too expensive. She still had to save up for travel expenses. So that's how it is. What you want is an evil artifact, right? Our shop has a set of evil artifacts that fits your requirements. Shopkeeper Jean thought he understood Yin Joga's thoughts. Indeed, there were some dark spiritualists who would often use humans to make pills. This alchemist Yin was probably in charge of menial tasks, helping to kill and cut the meat. If you have it, show it to me. Yin Joga didn't explain. This is a set of evil weapons that our myriad treasure tower purchased. Its power is not bad, and it has the innate ability to suck blood and spirit. It's a pity that the most important main blade is missing, so its power is greatly reduced. However, it's still a pretty good evil weapon. Alchemist Yin, take a look and see if you like it. Shopkeeper Jean took out a black wooden box and carefully opened it. Chapter 362. Inside the wooden box were 4 3-inch-long knives. They were not made of gold or iron, and had red rust spots on them. One look at them would make anyone feel uncomfortable. Yin Joga, however, felt that they looked familiar, as if they had met before. The evil weapon you got from Bloodthirst sect is a set with this one. Zishang whispered into Yin Joga's ear. Buy it. Yin Joga then remembered the knife evil weapon. Because the evil energy was too heavy, and its power was not that great. She did not take it seriously. If she could make it into a set with these 4 knives, she would make a fortune. Yin Joga looked at the 4 evil weapons carefully and asked, "How much for these?" 200 spirit stones for one. If you want all of them, I'll take it as 500 spirit stones. Shopkeeper Jean said generously. For 300 spirit stones. Yin Joga immediately cut the price by 1/3. Alchemist Yin, this is a 3rd-grade evil weapon. It has bloodthirst and spirit-devouring abilities. Selling it at this price would be a huge loss for me. Shopkeeper Jean shook his head. This evil weapon lacks a main knife, and its evil energy is too heavy. I need to spend a lot of effort to nourish it, and I don't even know if I can tame it after nourishing it. 300 spirit stones is also a risk for me. Yin Joga was not afraid that Shopkeeper Jean would not sell it. Evil weapons were always about affinity. They would only submit to an owner they liked. Otherwise, the evil energy would backfire, and the worst case would devour the owner. One would only dare to use it if they were very confident. It was like gambling. Alchemist Yun really knows how to talk. Alright, I'll treat it as a friend. 300 it is. Shopkeeper Jean made a pained expression. Actually, he had only bought it for 100 spirit stones, because the previous owner had already died from the backfire of this incomplete evil weapon. Shopkeeper Jean is indeed straightforward. I'm definitely going to be friends with you. Yin Joga also knew how to say nice things. Let him bring some defensive and flying artifacts. Zishang, who had been silent all this time, reminded Yin Joga. This place was so far from Middle State that relying on spirit travel talismans was too slow. Yin Joga felt that Zishang's words were very reasonable. So he asked Shopkeeper Jean, "Do you have any cheap defensive and flying artifacts?" "There aren't many flying artifacts, but more defensive artifacts. I'll show you a few first." Shopkeeper Jean took out 3 brocade boxes from his storage bag. One was a palm-sized black shield with red defensive runes engraved on its surface. It was as if vines were intertwining around it. The other was a golden bracelet that was similarly engraved with dense runes. Yin Joga tried injecting spirit energy into each of them. The small black shield could be big or small. Its defensive power was very strong, and it could withstand 10 attacks from a Foundation establishment cultivator. Its weakness was that its movement speed was very slow, and it was similar to a turtle shell. Once the golden bracelet was activated, it would form a golden protective shield around one's entire body. The only drawback was that it could only withstand 5 attacks from a Foundation establishment cultivator. Both defensive artifacts had their own advantages and disadvantages, and both were priced at 200 spirit stones. Lulu artifacts were of the box, with their advantages and disadvantages. Hi, she had Zishang by her side to protect her, but the Lu sisters didn't. Every time they encountered danger, Lu Tian'er had to activate her Hades Taoist physique. It was such a waste. The flying magic tool was a pair of white wings that could travel 1,000 miles in a day. It didn't consume a lot of spiritual energy and was very practical. It was a pity that it could only be flown by one person. Furthermore, it cost 500 spirit stones, which was completely out of Yin Joga's expectations. Is there anything cheaper? It would be best if it can carry 3 people, Yin Joga asked. This is already the cheapest in the shop. Artifacts that can carry 3 people are priced at least 5,000 spirit stones. Most of them are bought by the sect. Although Shopkeeper Jean said it in a roundabout way, Yin Joga realized she was poor. Buying a car was too far away for her. I'll take this shield. Can it be any cheaper? Yin Joga tried to bargain. This is the latest model. There is no discount. However, considering our friendship, I can use my internal card to give you a 10% discount. That will be 90 spirit stones, Shopkeeper Jean said with a smile. That's right. 10% is fine. How can there be a 10% discount? Yin Joga had seen it in the shop. The latest model didn't have a discount. But since Shopkeeper Jean was talking about the internal price, the price could still be negotiated. Alright, 10% is fine. Shopkeeper Jean was easy to talk to. After wrapping up Yin Joga's things, he gave her a thin gold square token with the words Million Treasure Tower engraved on it. This is our Million Treasure Towers VIP token. You can enjoy a 10% discount in any shop. The Myriad Treasure Towers VIP token required one to spend 5,000 spirit stones and above before one had the qualifications to apply for it. Shopkeeper Jean wanted to befriend Yunjioga, so he specially helped her apply. Thank you. Yunjioga put it away unceremoniously and left Myriad Treasure Tower with the things. After shopkeeper Jean sent Yunjioga off, the shop assistant walked over and said, "Young master is here. He wants you to find him in the sky room." Got it. Shopkeeper Jean hurried to the sky room. He saw a handsome man in his 20s sipping tea. Alchemist Chen stood beside him. "Greetings, young master." Shopkeeper Jean bowed respectfully. "I heard from old Chen that you just received a batch of Goodine pills?" Wanli Mingxian put down his teacup and asked. "Yes, young master. Please take a look." Shopkeeper Jean respectfully showed the pills in his hand to Wanli Mingxian. Wanli Mingxian casually poured one into his mouth and chewed it like a bean. Then he said, "The Yin Qi in this pill seems to be from the Yin Qi cemetery of the Yin Corpse sect. Could it be that the alchemist master of the Yin Corpse sect secretly came out to fish for money?" Shopkeeper Jean frowned. That didn't seem possible. A powerful alchemist master had a high status in the sect. They were worshipped like ancestors. Why would they covet a mere 600 spirit stones? No matter what his purpose is, we should just take the pills. There is nothing wrong with befriending him, Wanli Mingxian said as he swallowed the pills. Young master is right. Shopkeeper Jean saw his young master eat so casually and felt his heart ache. Young master, you have eaten so many pills. Do you want to find a quiet room to cultivate and meditate? Look at how distressed you are. Don't worry, you will get your share of spirit stones. The rules of the 1,000 Treasure Tower were very strict. Even if he was the young master, he couldn't casually use the pills. He had to spend spirit stones to buy them. 7 spirit stones for one. That's a total of 700 spirit stones. Thank you for your patronage. Shopkeeper Jean immediately put on a smile. Even his young master couldn't make a loss. 7 spirit stones for one. That's too much. Wanli Mingxian, who was eating happily, almost jumped up. Young master, these are superior grade pills. Old Chen personally appraised them. Shopkeeper Jean felt a bit wronged. If they were placed on the counter, 10 spirit stones for one would be easily sold. Chapter 363. Alright. I'll record it down first. Wanli Mingxian hurriedly kept the remaining pills. He was a little tight on money recently, and could not waste any more. Young master, you've already recorded down 900 spirit stones, Shopkeeper Jean reminded. If it exceeded 1,000 spirit stones, the family head would personally come out to collect the debt. It's fine. I recently received news about the Central Continent ruins. I'll go there for a stroll and I guarantee I'll clear the amount when I come back, Wanli Mingxian said confidently. Then we'll congratulate young master for your success, Shopkeeper Jean hurriedly flattered. At this moment, Yunjioga did not know that a troublesome person was also eyeing the Central Continent ruins. After she left Wan Baolu, she snuck into the noisiest alley in the workshop and started circling around. No need to circle around, no one is following you, Zishang said coldly. This Wan Baolu is not bad. Yunjioga thought that Wan Baolu would follow her to search for that so-called Yin Pill master. After all, evil sects were best at cheating others. It's probably useless even if I know. I might as well leave a good impression so that we can meet again in the future. Shopkeeper Jean seemed to be a very sensible person. Then let's have a good stroll and see if we can buy a better demon core for the Lu sisters. Yunjioga started strolling excitedly. Zishang followed beside her indifferently. Occasionally, he would find some good things and guide her to buy them. Yunjioga bought a rank 2 three-eyed demon monkey's demon core and a cheap paper crane before reluctantly leaving the workshop and returning to the cave abode. At this moment, the sky was already slightly bright. The defenses that Zishang set up around the cave abode showed signs of being touched. Needless to say, it was definitely done by Elder Mo Hua and Elder Baigu. They did not dare to make a move at the sect master peak. so they frequently sent their subordinates to harass her. They tried to create an atmosphere where she was being monitored at all times, wanting Yunjioga to live in fear and panic. Unfortunately, their wishful thinking was wrong. Yunjioga did not care about this small matter at all. After she returned to the cave abode, she took out the evil weapon knife that she obtained from bloodthirsty sect. This knife was wider and longer than the other four, and there were more red rust spots on it. It was obvious that it was the main knife. Yunjioga placed the main saber inside, and the other four small sabers immediately let out a buzzing sound. After flying together with the main saber into the air, they instantly combined into a foot-long, blood-red saber with a strong fishy smell. Good saber. Yunjioga could tell at a glance that the saber was extraordinary. He had really profited. Be careful. Zishang suddenly pushed Yunjioga away. The stool she was sitting on was immediately chopped into pieces by the blood-red evil blade. When the blood-red evil saber missed, it actually refused to give up and tried to attack again, but it was blocked outside by Zishang. What's going on? Yunjioga was extremely shocked. It thinks that your cultivation is too low, so it wants to kill you and find a new master. As Zishang spoke, he suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed the hilt of the evil blade. Then he flicked the blade with his finger. Buzz buzz buzz. The evil saber immediately let out a painful groan. The blood on the blade faded significantly, and it looked like it was on the verge of death. How dare you betray your master? Destroy it, Yunjioga said through gritted teeth. The evil saber trembled even more violently, and in a flash, it transformed into 5 small daggers. The leading dagger stood on the table, its tip slightly bent, as though it was apologizing. Sister, I brought you out of that filthy place, bloodthirsty sect, and helped you find your lost brothers and sisters. Is this how you repay me? Yunjioga put her hands on her hips and pointed at the dagger with her right hand as she cursed. My good intentions were wasted, but it was treated as evil. I might as well destroy it. Zishang, do it. The leading main knife trembled even more violently, and the 4 daggers behind it fell to the ground, as though they were begging for mercy. Forget it. Evil weapons are all inhumane. It's fine as long as they are useful. Zishang indeed felt that this set of evil weapons was not bad. They could be psychic with evil, and were much more useful than ordinary Dharma artifacts. Besides, with him by Yunjioga's side, these evil weapons would not be able to do anything. That's true. If you want to compare inhumane, you definitely won't lose to them. Yunjioga nodded approvingly. After all, she had bought it for 300 spirit stones. How could she bear to destroy it? All right, drip your blood to make it your master. Zishang pierced Yunjioga's finger and dripped his blood on the blade of the main knife. The 5 daggers flashed with red light at the same time, and a mental connection was established with Yunjioga. Keep, Yunjioga ordered, and the set of daggers obediently returned to her storage bag. After Yunjioga was done, she took out a communication amulet and sent a message to the Lu sisters. I have the Yao core. See you tomorrow at noon at the same place. The same place was the cave where Yunjioga had helped Lu Meier remove the curse source. Zishang had set up some formations there, and it was very safe. It could be used as a temporary residence for the Lu sisters. The Lu sisters quickly sent a reply, saying that they were waiting for her arrival. The next day, Yunjioga arrived at the cave on time, and saw the Lu sisters already waiting for her inside. In just a short 10 days, the Lu sisters had not only reached the 5th chi refining layer, but their mental state had also undergone a large change. Lu Meier's face was filled with hostility, and Lu Tian's body was covered in a faint ghost chi. This was a characteristic of someone who had killed people to refine their blood. But the biggest change was the cloth puppet Yin corpse sitting on Lu Meier's shoulder. Compared to before, it was simply a completely different weapon. The simple red clothes it was wearing had turned into an incomparably exquisite red silk. The sleeves and pants of its clothes were embroidered with exquisite gathering runes. The originally rough cloth puppet's skin had become smooth and delicate, looking like human skin. Its glossy black hair was tied into 2 buns. Its small round face still had a small mouth, but the teeth in its mouth were even sharper. It had already entered the human puppet stage. Where did you go? Yin Jyoga knit his brows. The two sisters didn't hide, and instead went out to cause trouble. Did they really think they were some amazing people? We went back to the Liu family. Liu Meier took out a box of spirit jades from her storage bag and pushed it in front of Yin Jyoga. Senior brother, look at this and see if it's right. It seems like our harvest isn't bad. Yin Jyoga could tell with a glance that there were 20,000 pieces of spirit jades in the box. Other than the medical fees, he had also paid back the spirit jades he borrowed from her to buy the monster core. It's just bringing back our things. Liu Meier smiled, but her smile was filled with sadness. Her father had always doted on them since they were young. There were many things that shouldn't have been told to them, including the Liu family's secret room and treasure room. This time she and her little sister followed their memories to the Liu family and found the Liu family's treasure room. Although they couldn't bring back the most valuable things, they still made a profit. When they came out, they even threw a spiritual fire at that evil ant's place, enough for them to drink. Good job. Yin Jyoga couldn't help thinking back to when she was at the Yi family. In order to take back the things that belonged to the Yin family, she had fought hard for them. She felt that the Liu sisters were to her liking. That's right, senior brother Yin Jyoga. We found this in the Liu family. Liu Tian'er took out a brown wooden box like she was presenting a treasure. Chapter 364. Inside Liu Tian'er's box was a heart the size of a baby's fist. It was completely black and red. It was the third-rank three-eyed monster monkey's monster core. Your sister's Yin corpse puppet can't hold such a high-level core. A second-rank monster core is already enough. Yin Jyoga took out the monster core he bought from the workshop. This third-rank monster core will be senior brother Yin's reward. After the Liu sisters knew that Yin Jyoga had helped them buy the monster core, they decided to return the favor. There's no need for reward. Yin Jyoga picked up the level 3 demonic core and carefully looked at it. She suddenly had an idea in her heart. I'll refine these two demonic cores into twin demonic cores. You two sisters can control that puppet Yin corpse together. Ah! The Liu sisters had a stunned expression. They had only heard of one person controlling several Yin corpses to increase their battle strength. They had never heard of two people controlling it together. Wouldn't that be a mess? This core is too high level. It requires a high degree of concentration and strong spiritual energy. You can't do it alone, but you can do it together. Yin Jyoga saw that the two sisters still didn't understand, so he explained. When you combine, you can double the Yin corpse puppet's power. The weakest one will be at the perfection chi refining realm. When you become more familiar with it, perhaps you can even release a power equivalent to a foundation establishment realm. At that time, it would be very powerful. We want this, we want this. Liu Tian'er excitedly shouted. Combining was simply their specialty. Will trouble senior brother Yin Jyoga. Please help us refine this. Liu Meier also nodded her head. After taking the spirit stones from the Liu family, she said that she wanted to refine an identical Yin corpse puppet for her little sister. But her little sister insisted on using the spirit stones to increase the puppet's quality. She even vowed that she didn't need the Yin corpse before her 9 netherworld Dao body was used up. She couldn't change her little sister's mind, but her heart still felt guilty. Now that her little sister could also control the Yin corpse puppet, it couldn't be any better. Leave the Yin corpse puppet behind, and then guard the outside. I'll help you refine it now. Yin Jyoga decided to be a good person to the end. He would fulfill the Liu sisters' wish today. Many thanks, senior brother. Liu Tian'er excitedly left the Yin corpse puppet behind and pulled her sister to guard the entrance. Yin Jyoga took off the puppet Yin corpse's clothes and then mixed the fish silk grass and white rubber stone into a transparent liquid. He carefully applied it to the core runes of the puppet Yin corpse. That thick liquid quickly turned into a thin film and clearly imprinted the Yin corpse puppet's core runes on it. The thin film of liquid quickly turned into a layer and imprinted the Yin corpse puppet core runes. You don't understand a woman's friendship. Yin Yoga carefully removed the membrane and took out the core runes and placed them elsewhere. Yin of monster. Yin Yoga slapped Zishang's hand away and pointed to a corner. Go away. Don't disturb me while I'm refining the core. This was her first attempt, and she could not afford to fail. Yin Yoga ignored Zishang's shining eyes and pointed to a corner. Go to the side. Don't disturb me refining the core. This was her first time, she could not fail. Yin Yoga ignored his burning gaze and placed the 2 Yao cores, one big and one small, as well as the dark spirit grass and the puppet flower into the small bronze cauldron. A strand of white bone flame the size of a strand of hair pitifully came out of her hand. The spirit energy she had borrowed from Zishang had already been used up. You don't have enough spirit energy? Zishang meaningfully asked. Less nonsense, hurry up and do it. Yin Yoga threw herself at Zishang and sat on his waist to ask for more spirit energy. In order to meet Yin Yoga's request, Zishang was working very hard. Naturally, his voice was a bit louder. The Lu sisters were standing guard at the entrance. When they heard the movements inside, they couldn't help looking at each other, seeing the sympathy and emotion in each other's eyes. Senior brother Yin Jiu was too great. In order to help them refine the monster core, he did not hesitate to feed the tiger with his own body. Although that 1,000-year-old corpse was very beautiful, Yin corpses were still Yin corpses. They could be hard and move, but they could not be shot. This made it very painful for the Yin corpses to mate. There was no refreshing feeling at all. It was too pitiful. If there was a chance in the future, they would definitely repay senior brother Yin Jiu. If Yin Yoga, who was fighting in the cave, could hear the Lu sisters' thoughts, she would definitely tell them that it was not bitter at all. It was refreshing in one word. Do you want to do it again? Zishang held Yin Yoga in a different position. He let her lean against the wall, and he stood behind her. No need. There's no time and I have enough spirit energy. Yin Yoga gasped for breath. This kind of method of quickly replenishing spirit energy was very rough. Doing it once in a while was fine, but doing it every day would make her fall apart. Although Zishang felt it was a bit of a pity, he still cooperated. Yin Yoga quickly put on her clothes and summoned the white bone flame to refine the core. The 3rd-level monster core kept turning in the pill furnace. The special runes of the monster beast appeared in front of Yin Yoga. Those blood-red veins that were as thick as a hair were the key to transporting the spirit energy. What she needed to do was to merge the 2nd-level monster core, without destroying the veins. Yin Yoga controlled the white bone flame to soften the veins of the 3rd-level monster core. Then she gently adjusted it until there was enough space. She used the dark spirit grass and the puppet flower to make the 2nd-level monster core. The 3rd-level monster core had the ability to swallow low-level monster beasts, so it slowly swallowed the other one. In the end, it was only the size of half a baby's fist. But just merging the monster core was not enough. She still needed to carve the same runes as the puppet Yin corpse. Yin Yoga carefully placed the core runes into the pill furnace, perfectly imprinting them onto the core. Is it done like this? Zishang asked in an interested voice. We still need to put in the head of the puppet Yin corpse. Yin Yoga took out her evil weapon knife and skillfully cut open the head of the puppet Yin corpse. She carefully placed the core in, not stitching it up, leaving it bare. The core is done, you can come in. Yin Yoga shouted towards the entrance of the cave. The Lu sisters impatiently walked in. Seeing the twin core in the head of the puppet Yin corpse, they felt that it was very strange. Let's first bind it with blood, and then see if it works. Yin Yoga said. The Lu sisters dripped a drop of blood on the pill core to recognize it as its master. A scarlet eye appeared on the Yin corpse puppet's bald face, looking very strange. Not bad, there's even a demon eye. Yin Yoga never thought it would have this kind of special effect. The 3-eyed demon monkey had to cultivate for 100 years before it could open its demon eye. It could predict danger ahead of time, so it was very useful in battle. These 2 sisters really made a big profit. Wah, elder sister, I can see it so clearly. Lu Tianer excitedly shouted. Let's try to have it attack the earth tusk beast. Lu Mei pointed at the earth tusk that was gnawing on its claws. All right. Lu Tian'er happily nodded her head, and then began to pour in her spiritual energy. Wait a minute, Yin Jioge quickly shouted. Dual cores were not meant to be used like this. It was a pity she came too late. The Lu sisters had already poured large amounts of spiritual energy into the puppet Yin corpse. Ji. The earth tusk 100 meters away was so scared that it dropped the seeds in its hands, immediately turning around and running back into the cave. But the puppet Yin corpse had already disappeared without a trace. Chapter 365. Where did my tyrant flower go? Lu Mei realized that she had lost contact with her doll, and her face turned pale with fright. Senior brother Yinjiu, what's going on? Did we get into trouble? Lu Tian'er was very uneasy when she thought of the words "stop" just now. We'll talk about this later. Let's find your overlord flower doll first. Normally, Yin Jioge would have ridiculed the name of the doll, but now there were more important matters to attend to. But I can't feel its existence anymore. Ever since Lu Mei had swallowed the incantation source, not only could she locate the traces of the demonic sect Old Freak, but her divine sense had also grown a lot. She was unable to find the Overlord Flower doll, so it was very likely that it had been destroyed. Don't worry, even if you can't find it, someone else can. Yin Jioge looked at Zishang, who was hiding beside him, and asked, Where did you see the puppet go? East. Zishang lazily pointed in a direction. Since you saw it, why didn't you stop it? A Yin corpse puppet that ran too fast was not Zishang's match. I don't want to catch it. Zishang shrugged. He had no interest in catching this stupid thing. Yin Jioge was speechless. Zishang was getting lazier and lazier. Senior brother Yinjiu, let's get the doll back first. Lu Mei advised. Now was not the time to argue. Yes. Lu Tian'er nodded repeatedly. Then let's go. Yin Jioge didn't dare to delay any longer. He led them all the way to the east. On the way, Lu Tian'er asked, Senior brother Yinjiu, did we do something wrong? The twin cores have just fused. You have to familiarize yourselves with each other before you can work together. Otherwise you will lose control, Yin Jioge said. When we get the Overlord flower back, we will definitely cultivate properly. Lu Mei also understood such a simple logic. It was just that she was blinded by happiness. There's a situation 100 steps ahead, Zishang reminded. Yin Jioge slowed down and saw a handsome black-robed man standing under a large tree from afar. His left hand was holding the puppet Yin corpse, and his right hand was holding the twin cores, looking at them in the sunlight. The Lu sisters saw their Yin corpses being destroyed and instantly lost all reason. 2 earthen yellow bone spikes shot out from the ground towards the man. Yin Jioge also summoned his 4 black bone spurs and rushed forward to provide cover. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. Logically speaking, the man should have been caught off guard. However, he easily turned around, and a pitch-black dagger appeared behind him, blocking the two's attacks. He was actually a Foundation establishment cultivator. You are disciples of the Yin Corpse sect. After seeing this puppet, the Yin corpse is yours. The man carefully looked at the Lu sisters and Yin Jioge. Then, he pointed at Yin Jioge and shouted in surprise. If I'm not wrong, you're the lucky person from the Yin corpse sect who obtained a 1,000-year living corpse. You're called Yinjiu, right? Yin Jioge narrowed his eyes. I didn't expect myself to be so famous. Of course. After all, you look too special. I recognized you at first glance. The man spread out his hands exaggeratedly and said, Your great achievements in the Yin Corpse sect have already spread throughout the evil sects and demon sections. Especially your 1,000-year living corpse challenging 3 great elders alone. I admire it greatly. I don't know if this one has the honor of seeing the legendary 1,000-year living corpse. The man asked with a smile. I'm afraid you won't be able to return alive. Yin Jioge looked at Zishang, wanting him to make a move. However, Zishang shook his head and said, This isn't a normal person. Killing him will be very troublesome. Yin Jioge finally noticed that Wanli Mingxian seemed to be laughing, and laughing like he wasn't on guard. However, he was still maintaining a safe distance from them. She took a closer look, and discovered that although the black clothes Wanli Mingxian was wearing looked ordinary, they were all made of high-grade third-grade ice silk, and the runes were even secretly embroidered. Not only did it have a strong defense, but it also had the ability to conceal one's aura. The black earring on his left ear was made from meditation wood. It could calm one's mind and drive away evil energy. There was also the wrist guard, belt, shoes, and pendant. All of them were high-grade magic tools. He was clearly a nouveau riche. To be able to dress in such a low-key and luxurious manner, he definitely wasn't a normal inner sect disciple. No wonder Zishang said killing him would cause endless trouble. Then forget about it. The man continued to smile and said, Junior brother Yinjiu doesn't need to be so nervous. I don't have any evil intentions towards you. That's right, I'm called Wanli Mingxian. I'm an inner sect disciple of the Black Fiend sect. My sect has a good relationship with your Yin Corpse sect. If you don't mind, I'll call you Junior brother. Black Fiend sect. Yun Jioga remembered that Yi Rui had been taken away by the Black Fiend sect. He didn't know what the current situation was. Senior brother Yun Jiao, this fellow stole our Yin Corpse. We can't let him go so easily. The Lu sisters anxiously shouted. This girl misunderstood. It was this Yin Corpse puppet that suddenly attacked me. That's why I caught it. Wanli Mingxuan's handsome face revealed an expression of being wronged. A grown man acting like this didn't seem strange at all. You can't just destroy it like this. Lu Mei loved the Overlord flower, like it was her child. Her child being killed naturally made her hate him to the bone. I didn't destroy it. I just felt that its core was very special, so I took it out to take a look. Wanli Mingxian said this as he placed the two cores back into the Yin Corpse puppet's open head. His movements were very nimble, and one could tell with a single glance that he was an expert. Lu Mei made a hand seal, and the Yin Corpse puppet seemed to come back to life as the demon eye appeared on its face. Yeah, there's actually a demon eye. Where did you get this core? Introduce it to me, alright. Wanli Mingxian excitedly shouted. We got it from hell. You can go look for it there. Lu Mei immediately sent a killing order to the Overlord flower, wanting to kill Wanli Mingxian. She never thought that the Overlord flower would not move at all. I'm sorry. I was afraid that it would run around, so I placed a curse on it. Wanli Mingxian smiled as he lifted the Yin Corpse puppet's clothes, revealing the forbidden character on its back that was shrouded in black qi. What do you want? Yun Jioga knit his brows. If Wanli Mingxian dared to have ideas about the Yin Corpse puppet, he couldn't let him go even if he offended the Black Fiend sect. I don't want anything. Wanli Mingxian innocently said. I've been interested in refining since I was young, so I wanted to meet this refining master. In order to show his sincerity, Wanli Mingxian took off the forbidden character on the Yin Corpse puppet and threw it to Yun Jioga. Yun Jioga received it and carefully looked at it. He found that the two cores were undamaged and the Yin Corpse puppet did not have any tricks on it, so he gave it back to the Lu sisters. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.